live stream podcast, our Thursday podcast of For the People podcast. And I'm telling you all right now, we got a dope show. We got a dope guest coming through. We are live right now on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, and in a second, we will be live on Rockfin. Y'all know Rockfin like to take a sweet time. Make sure that if this is your first time here, go ahead and like this video. Go ahead and share this video. Go ahead and subscribe. Hit that subscribe button so we can get back to 50,000 subscribers. And if you want to support the show and get exclusive content, you can become a YouTube member by clicking on that link in the description. You can become a Rockfin Premium member. That also helps support the show. But like I said, liking, sharing, and subscribing, and commenting does wonders as well. Today, I have a very special guest. Another one of my RBN brethren, Revolutionary Blackout Network. He has the Jaybe show. He got a Jaybe and Sabby show. He has his own YouTube channel, which you can find in the description below. And but with no further ado, I would like to bring on my man, Jaybe. What's going on, dog? How you doing?
Good to see you. Good to see your smiling face. I heard you speaking some Portuguese earlier. I was quite impressed. I was just like, yeah, there go my boy over there.
Look, man, I got a choice. Anybody in this house speak English except for me. Well, my oldest, he speak a little bit, but yeah, basically. Yeah, Brazil, they're not known for having a high, they don't want to learn English. A lot of the ones that do end up in the US, but most of them actually don't really want to learn English outside of maybe like learning song lyrics. They're very, very proud of their culture. And also English is just hard as hell for them. In the same way that Brazilian specifically, Portuguese, is very difficult for Americans. But dog, a lot of stuff has gone on. Hell, I was gonna say last week, but really the last couple of years. And I had a lot of opportunities to go on your show, and I appreciate it. And we've been trying to get you on here for a while, but our schedules ain't really meshed since I moved to Brazil, but now we live and direct. So Jaybe, appreciate you coming on. We were going to start with AOC, but we got to start with something else, actually. Because you put out a tweet that was kind of spicy. A little spicy the other day. The other day, Jaybe, you put out a tweet about Project 2025. You got a little pushback from that, but we're going to pull it up right now. And we're going to let you talk about it. Because I'm not going to say whether I agree or disagree, but I'm going to show everybody what you put up, and I'm going to let you talk about what you meant by that.
Sure.
Because that's it. I'm not going to say whether or not I agree yet, but it was spicy. He said, all right, I'm going to say it. Project 2025 is a lucrative fundraising tool for the Democratic and Republican parties. It gets you scared, so you donate more money to the Dems. And it gets you, the ultra-right conservatives hyped to think the GOP will carry this out. In the end, corporations win. What do you mean by that, man? Because there's a lot of people that have been scared out of their minds about Project 2025. So why do you feel like it is merely a fundraising tool? And why do you feel like people are maybe blowing this up and making it something that it actually isn't, only to the benefit of Democratic Party, the Republican Party, and obviously corporations?
Well, it's interesting you brought this out. Me and Sabby are going to be going over this on RBN later this evening at 5 p.m. Eastern. So we're going to be going over it line by line as much as we can, because who has time to go over 900 pages?
Yeah, it's a book. Yeah, it's a whole book.
Yeah, it's a novel, okay? But one of the things that, and everything I've been hearing about Project 2025, the question that keeps coming up in my head is, what is different from this project than what the conservatives have been trying to do for the last 50 years?
That's the question. And people actually don't explain what you mean by that, because I don't want to spoil it for you, because I know you got your show, but give people a little teaser about what you mean by that, because as somebody who's done some research on Project 2025, one of the reasons I got a bad habit of this, whenever I just look at something, I'm like, okay, this is bullshit. I just will forget to talk about it, because I'm like, I can't believe people are actually taking this seriously. It's something we already knew about, but people do take this stuff seriously, and I've been hearing more and more about it. So give people a teaser about what do you mean by how is it different than what we've already seen from neocons in the Republican Party?
They want to privatize education. Same song, different dance. They want to privatize healthcare. Same song, different dance. They want to they want to avert the climate disaster by keeping the hands and the fossil fuel companies. Same song, different dance. They want to cut funding for social programs. Same song, different dance. They want to.
Hold on, now I gotta correct you. You giving these Republicans a lot of credit by saying they got all these dances. I don't believe that. I don't really support that. I don't believe that dancing is any part of 2025. I ain't gonna cap. But maybe the same song, different two-step. We go a little two-step. I don't know if they dance. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. It's a lot. It's a lot of the same. And then we have to remember that the origins of, and they boast about this on the website, the origins of Project 2025 is the Heritage Foundation, right? The Heritage Foundation in Project 2025, at least the ideas of Project 2025, they originated in like 1974. And it started with the Reagan administration. So it's not like any of this stuff is new. It's just that it seems to me, like you said, that these organizations like the Heritage Foundation, the Lincoln Project, people tend to believe that they're partisan because of what they might say in one election cycle or another. But in the reality, we know, like, Hillary Clinton damn near is more conservative than any neocon you know. And you got people like maybe Thomas Massey, or in one aspect, in a more positive aspect, he's a little bit more leftist or independent or populist. But then you got Mitch McConnell, who will push as much neoliberal policies as you would expect Obama to push. And at the end of the day, there's really no difference between the two.
You know what? All this is a rebranding of the boogeyman. That's all it is. Let's be real.
What do you mean by that?
Because the thing is that they're always saying, oh my God, the Republicans are going to do this. And it's like, motherfucker, they've been doing that for the longest time. What the hell are you talking about? Like, it's like that dog's going to come and bite you. We've been doing that. We've been doing that.
You know, pit bulls are strong, right, man? Actually, that's a good example, because people always say pit bulls are strong and they'll bite you if they get mad. And I always say, well, yeah, but that's only if you make them mad and it's not well trained, right? In other words, they do what you allow them to do, or they do what the owner allows them to do. That is no different than the Republican or the Democrat. We already know it's pit bull. How that pit bull acts is up to you. If you hold that pit bull accountable, whichever party that may be, that's actually up to you. And what happens is when you allow the fear mongering, because people fear mongered pit bulls in the state of Florida, especially and specifically Miami, to the point where pit bulls were not allowed in Miami for a long time. It was actually illegal. Actually, I think the law is still a thing. It's just, they don't really care. Everybody gonna have their pit bulls, especially the hood. So you can't really get rid of them. But people were making that argument, right? But it's not the pit bull that's inherently the problem. It's the owners of the pit bull. So it's not like political parties. The idea of a political party is not the problem. The idea of a nonprofit is not the problem. The problem is that we allow the Heritage Foundation, Lincoln Project, and the people that back these organizations to convince you that one party is inherently better than the other. And what we're trying to tell you is, no, that's not the truth. It's both parties. They're both shit. They're both trash.
Yeah. I'm going to make this point later, but to me, this is a diversion technique, right? And what I mean by a diversion technique, it is a way to, it's like a military action. It's a military tactic. When if you want the other army to go in a specific direction, you put some of your forces behind them to make it look like they're behind them, and then they're going to attack. And so the army goes into the completely different direction, but your other forces are already over there.
Yeah, colon. It's called colon.
Yeah. So that's basically what the Democratic Party is doing. Because people don't think about this, but the Democratic Party and the Republican Party are workmates. It is the same thing when you got a Pizza Hut and a KFC in the same building. and they're owned by the same company. It's Yum Brands. Why in the world are we continuously going, well, I don't like Pizza Hut, so I'm going over to KFC, and then you do it 2 steps over, and you go talk to the same person that's behind the counter. That's the problem.
No. It's like saying, it's more like saying, like, you know, especially if you got black parents, you probably know, like, black people specifically will have specific locations of restaurants that we will not go to. Once they mess up your fries one time, or that you got a cold burger one time, like my mom got this thing with a Wendy's that she just will not ever go back. To this day, she still talks about it. And it's like you said, where in South Florida, they got KFC, Taco Bell, right? It's like, I'm so tired of messing up my food at this KFC, but then I spin the block and go right back to the Taco Bell like it ain't the same people making the same food. And this, oh, by the way, and that's a true story. I didn't say that, but my friend did that. He literally was like, I'm so tired of messing up my food, bro. Then one day we was about to go out to the club. He's like, I'm going to get something to eat. He shows up with Taco Bell. Now, I know that the only Taco Bell that's close by is the one by my apartment with the KFC. I said, hold on, I thought you just said you don't like that place. He's like, no, I said I don't like the KFC. I said, no, you said you don't like the fact that that restaurant keeps messing up your food. You do know the same people that make the KFC are the same people that make your order for Taco Bell, right? He's like, damn, bro, I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about that. But that's basically what it is. Yeah. And it's, what do you think about this idea that you've seen pitched on the internet? I've seen it over and over and over again, that somehow Project 2025 is specifically targeting Black people. Where is that idea coming from?
Nigga, when have they never targeted Black people?
Yeah, well, I mean, but the way it's being pitched is that it's unique.
Bro, we've been targeted for 400 years. That ain't nothing new.
Yeah, of course. But the difference is we're being told that we're being targeted in a unique fashion with Project 2025. And I'm trying to understand, because I'm not joking, I've actually been trying to understand where that has come from. Even D.L. Hughley, in the clip that we'll watch in a little bit, he even said that Project 2025, they're targeting Black people. And I'm like, hold up. Why do y'all keep jumping to Project 2025? They're targeting Black people. There's not really any difference when it comes to neoliberal policies and neocon policies or Republican and Democrat policies. If you've actually dug into the weeds of these policies and look at the outcome, Black people are always, if we're not the targets, we're the bystanders, we're the collateral damage. It's either they don't care or we're directly targeted, but there's not really any difference because you get the same result. So I'm curious, have you seen anything in your reading that leads you to believe that Black people should be uniquely fearful for Project 2025 in a way that somehow leads them to believe that the Democrats could prevent that from happening?
No.
You sure?
Yeah.
No, I'm because people want. I'm genuinely curious, bro. I want to know because people have been saying that.
I mean, what? That they want to get rid of critical race theory? That they don't want people to actually learn about the actual history of what's been happening to us in regards to chattel slavery, redlining, Black codes, and all that, and Jim Crow.
That's already a thing.
They've been wanting to cover up that history for a longest time. Like, that's, to me, it's like, show me something new. I'm like, show me something new that they have been, that they're trying to do. And for me, I'm like, look, I'll put it this way. It's like Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. What's the difference between The Force Awakens and A New Hope?
Don't do that.
I see the same story. So when people are like, oh, well, they're going to target Black people.
Rey fine. That's the difference. Rey is fine as hell. I'll give them that. They picked the right actress. Just put her in the wrong damn movie because that Star Wars franchise is trash. But other than that, yeah, you're right. It's the same story.
I'm not a fan of the sequel trilogy, by the way. Just letting you know. But
yeah, well, technically, it would be the is it sequel?
No, it's the sequel trilogy.
It'll be the third sequel. Is it the third? Is a third the sequel still? Because technically, it's the third trilogy.
Original trilogy, and the sequel trilogy.
Ah, you're right. You're right. Them damn words, boy. They mean things. He's correct. But but ironically, you are correct. It basically, the story is so similar, but the differences are actually just, they're either non-existent or they're like, this difference doesn't even make any sense. Like it's not an actual difference. Bro. It's not a substantive difference. There you go. That's what I'm looking
it's cosmetic.
For.
Yeah, because the thing is, like, what they all they did was they took all their plans and they put it in a book, and now people are like, oh my god, they put it in a book. They put all their plans in a book. Oh my god, look at it. They got a plan. They got plans. Meanwhile, the plan's been in their works for 50 years. Yeah. And my thing is like, what have and here's the question. These plans that we have seen, the Democrats have seen for forever. What have they done to avert us from this crisis materially? I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about just in. I'm not talking about in culture. I'm not talking about the socially. I'm talking about material conditions to truly avert us from this disaster. Because last time I checked, in 2023, it was reported that the homelessness rate jumped 12% while Biden was in office. Who, by the way, Niko, I know you know this answer. Who had control of the executive branch, the House, and the Senate in 2008? Who had it for 2 years?
Hey, filibuster proof. Don't forget that part. That's the key. Filibuster proof Senate. Now, you talking about 2008, boy? Two years ago they had the House and the Senate. Like, right? We're gonna talk about this too, about AOC.
Parliamentarian, right?
Impeachment.
Parliamentarian. Look,
they keep doing this game. They keep playing this game. Go ahead.
You should blame the Democrats for Project 2025. I'm saying it. Blame them because they're the ones that allowed it to happen. Because I'll put it to you like this, and I'm going to use this example later. Let's say you have two parents, and the dad is abusing the kids in the household. He's physically like harming them. You see the kids coming with bruises and busted lips. And the mom, what she does is whenever the kids act up, when they're not really acting up, what happens is she'll go, well, if you don't act right, your father's going to come home, even though they're not really doing anything wrong. Or what will happen is when they do something slightly wrong that doesn't really warrant their father knowing, she'll go and tell their father, and then he'll beat them to a pulp. And then, so my question is, are you going to try to keep the kids with the mom, or keep the kids with the dad, or take the kids out of the house?
Take them to grandma crib. Basically.
The thing is that everybody says, oh, don't take them to grandma because you're going to be giving them to dad. No, you're not. You're giving them to grandma. Because the thing is, grandma is the Democrat. I'm sorry, mom is the Republicans. I'm sorry, the Democrats. And dad is the Republicans. Well, get them out of the house. Because the thing is that one is the abuser, but one is putting us in child endangerment. The Democrats are literally putting us in civilian endangerment.
Well, it's abuse too. That's abuse too, right? That's abuse. It's a different type of abuse.
It is.
But it's emotional abuse, and you are an accessory to abuse. So it's not any different. It's just like, is there really a difference between Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein? Not really. One set him up and the other one hit it home. Like, one set up the pins, the other one knocked him down. I don't know. What's the difference? The network could not exist without the other. I was just explaining this to my wife. I said the worst thing you can be in the States here, they don't really have that big of as big of a problem. And I was asking because I wanted to know if they had words or phrases to describe what we would call Uncle Tom's, shucking and jiving, words like that. And she was like, no, actually, no, because they don't really have that issue here because of how proud Black people here are. Very, very proud to be Black. It isn't superficial. It is like they got they're kind of like us, but they got their own way to speak, their own dances. They're celebrated, right? They don't get their culture robbed and then pretend like it didn't happen. So they're very prideful. And I asked her, like, do y'all have this problem? She's like, no. I was like, so what happens if a Black person decided to vote for Bolsonaro? And it's like that Black person would likely give reasons that only have to do with finances. It wouldn't actually have anything to do with race. I was like, well, okay, I guess that would kind of make sense. So I explained to her, like, so they do have teams here, obviously. But I was like, in the U.S., you can be Black and you can pick a team. And yeah, you'll get berated by one side or you get berated by the other side. And the system is okay with that, right? You won't get berated as much as you think you would. I said, but don't be the Black person, or especially if you're famous, that says, nah, both sides treat Black people like shit. Because then you will be treated like a leper. And she was like, what? Why would they? Why? I said, because the way that the system can exist in its current form, the only way, is if you play for a team. Because most of these people get elected, raise money, stay in power, et cetera, is because they are telling you the other team is worse. Not that necessarily my team is better, just that the other team is worse. And when you look at this Project 2025, it's very reminiscent of the Lincoln Project. Yeah. But what Project 2025, once again, y'all, the Heritage Foundation, you hear how all these celebrities all of a sudden started talking about the Heritage Foundation? This is why I don't like, boy, you know that Drake line, bench players talking like starters, I hate it. That's how I feel every time a celebrity decides they want to open their mouth about politics. Because they're talking like they know what they're talking about. They're talking like they're analysts. But the Heritage Foundation, I've talked about the Heritage Foundation before regarding Reagan. And I almost forgot that I talked about the Heritage. I was like, oh shit, this is the same Heritage Foundation? Why are they talking about this now? Why are all these black people talking about this now? Why do they think this is unique? Talking about, for example, getting rid of the Department of Education. Like they're like, oh, they want to get rid of the Department of Education. First of all, that was an idea that Trump floated the first time. That's an idea that libertarians have floated forever. Neocons and libertarians together have talked about getting rid of the Department of Education. But then what happens is you have some of these black celebrities, they'll try to spin it, right? And they'll say, that's specifically who do you think that harms most? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hate to break it to y'all. If you want me to be completely and objectively honest about the Department of Education, that shit ain't for black people. That don't help us. It conditions us. It set the stage for poor black schools to be in the position that they're in, where they're not receiving the right amount of funding, where they're not getting the help that they need, when the hours are not being put in to help those kids catch up and become literate, become strong performers on these standardized tests that people are forcing them to take, et cetera, et cetera. Don't act like that the Department of Education has done black people any favors. So it's like you're lying. You're lying on two fronts. You're acting like this has not always been part of the neoconservative agenda. But on top of that, you're acting like these government institutions actually have benefited black people.
Let me also add to this. They want to get rid of affirmative action. Oh, so they want to hurt white women, huh?
Yeah, exactly right. What? So white women? Damn, that's crazy.
Because that's
the white women gonna be mad as hell.
Benefits most from it. Affirmative action benefits white women most. Oh, they want to get rid of SNAP benefits. Oh, so they're gonna screw over the poor whites, huh?
Yeah, like poor white people about to be mad as it. People don't know, bro.
The poor whites are gonna be madder than a mug because guess what? That's who is the person that's who's gonna get hurt the most. And the thing is like I put it this way. The Democrats manipulate black people just like the Republicans manipulate the poor and working class white people.
Mm-hmm. But look, if you're a black person and you want to be a Republican, you can get paid. So, they manipulate the white people, the poor white people. Well, boy, don't be a black Republican, boy. You can stack up bread hella fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hey, look. Hey, you want to get rich quick? Be a black Republican.
I'm broke because I don't do both either party, but.
Exactly, right? Look, my Republican friend told me, before we move on to the next subject, he was straight up, bro. He said, hey, man, I know you got your morals and like I respect your integrity, but like you ever just think about for like maybe one election cycle, just flip it on them, because you know how to sell. Because like, for example, you know how we are, because you RBN. I'm a Second Amendment absolutist. I believe that we don't take that Second Amendment seriously enough. I'm like, we need black people trained in all arms. If I want to own a tank, if I want to own a bazooka in the back, I need to be able to own every weapon that the U.S. military has. Because if I got to fight them from threats, to protect myself from threats, both foreign and domestic, I need to be able to match them bullet for bullet. Okay? So he's like, he said, you are able to sell conservative policies better than conservatives. I was like, well, it's because a lot of the things that y'all advocate for, y'all only sell them as like benefiting conservatives, but some things that are actually got ended. The reason that you're having to fight so hard for gun rights at this moment, like in places like California, is because they want to take them from us, not y'all. You know what I'm saying? But he was like, you should just for one election cycle, man. He said, because once you flip back, they always forget in fact, you get more benefits. You get rewarded more when you flip back. Because he even knows, like, yeah, a lot of the people of color, black people that flip to one side or the other, like what Dave Rubin did, because he was like a gay liberal, right? Then he flipped to conservative, but he tried to keep his same title as a liberal, until he absolutely couldn't anymore. Tim Pool, what did he always call himself? He still called himself a liberal, right? You got like, TPUSA, boy, they the kings of the DEI hire, ironically, because they always criticize the DEI. But they quick to hire a black person to talk about black people. That's how Candace Owens got her job, right? So I'm dead. It's not a coincidence that she's moved on from strictly focusing on race. Like some of the stuff that she does her shows on now, I'm actually interested in because she's not only strictly focusing on race or participating in the duopoly. She's actually exposing the system as a whole, except for in certain circumstances. But we know why she was originally hired, and you know why? Because we know what she was talking about. She wasn't allowed to step out of that conversation, limited hangout about race, and she was going to say the same thing every time in the most predictable fashion, right? So my point is that he was literally telling me because he saw, he was just like, man, I just hate that you don't get the respect that you deserve. And he was like, man, sometimes you just got to play the game. You just got to play the game. Nah, I don't have it in me. I can't be fake. I just don't know how to do it. It's not in my heart, not in my soul. I don't have the ability to do it. Sometimes I wish I did. My accounts wish I did too. But it just lets you know how easy it is to, if you're willing to play the game, to manipulate people using your identity, and to manipulate people, ironically, the same people who allegedly hate identity politics. That's what's crazy. Let me read this super chat real quick, and we're gonna move on to the next subject. Brandon Burks, what's going on? Thank you for the super chat. Could you please follow me back on Twitter? I thought I already followed you on Twitter. I think it would help my ads my ad mentions for you to get seen. You're my own personal search engine. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'll follow you back again. That's kind of weird though, because I definitely thought I followed you on Twitter. So yeah, and I know you've been a Patreon member and a member of every part of MCSC and FPP since the jump. So I appreciate you. But yeah, so I wanted to get your opinion on this really quick, Jaybe. Did you hear about the radio host that got fired?
The radio host that got fired.
You asked for
yes, sir. Black radio host got fired because after the debate, she decided she wanted to interview Joe Biden, and you know how that go. So she saw it come up. Did not get rewarded for it though, like she thought she would. I don't know if anybody's noticed by now. Maybe back in the day, once upon a time, Joe Biden was a come up. We know how these Democrats and these shucking and jiving motherfuckers do whenever they get their number called. But this ain't come up time for Biden. And this is just another example of how selling out gets you sold.
You asked 4 questions, and maybe that's what you were allowed to ask by the campaign or the White House. But they were essentially the same questions, both interviews, about accomplishments, progress in your respective state, what's at stake in the election, what he has to say about his debate performance, and what he would say to voters who think their vote doesn't matter or might sit this election out. Were those questions given to you by the White House, or did you have, or the campaign, or did you have to submit questions ahead of this interview?
The questions were sent to me for approval. I approved of them.
Okay, so the White House sent the questions to you ahead of the interview?
Yes.
Okay.
I got several questions, 8 of them, and the 4 that were chosen were the ones that I approved.
Okay. And the reason I ask is not a criticism of either of you. It's just that if the White House is trying now to prove the vim, vigor, acuity of the president, I don't know how they do that by sending questions first before the interview so that the president knows what's coming.
Yeah. So that person got fired, and this was the press release. So on July 3rd, the title is Accountability, Access, and the Path Forward. Why Black Media Matters. And this is the president and CEO of WURD Radio. Pun fully intended, I'm presuming. On July 3rd, the first post-debate interview with President Joe Biden was arranged and negotiated independently by WURD Radio host Andrea Lawful Sanders. Ironic. Without knowledge, consultation, or collaboration with WURD management. The interview featured predetermined questions provided by the White House, which violates our practice of remaining an independent media outlet accountable to our listeners. As a result, Miss Lawful Sanders, and WURD Radio have mutually agreed to part ways effective immediately. WURD Radio remains an independent voice that our audience can trust will hold elected officials accountable. As Pennsylvania's only independent Black-owned talk radio station, WURD Radio has cultivated that trust with our audience over our 20-year history. This is something that we take very seriously. Agreeing to a predetermined set of questions jeopardizes that trust and is not a practice that WURD Radio engages in or endorses as a matter of official policy. What you got to say about that, man? Do you feel like they did it dirty? Do you feel like they did the right thing?
Alarm bells would have came off in my head if I had to be submitted questions to ask the president when I could just formulate my own questions and go according to the concerns of the Black community instead. Like, why are you giving me questions when I have to hold your feet to the fire? Doesn't make sense.
Yeah. No, 100%. So you feel like they were justified in firing her?
At the very least, a suspension. Because the thing is like, number one, if it's in the contract, if it's in the contract, then she shouldn't have did it. Number one. Number two, it feels like you were using the platform for an agenda for a particular party.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're supposed to be part of an independent radio station, there's emphasis on that word independent. So she should have, at the very least, went to her higher ups and said, look, I have a potential interview with Joe Biden, and this is what they want to do. Here are the questions that they want to ask. And then the higher ups could have went either yes or no. And then she would have been in the clear even if they said no, or even if they said yes, she would have been in the clear. And then she can come back and go, hey, they allowed me.
Yeah, because she didn't. So yeah, I agree. So the reason why I think they fired her is because there's a level of intentionality that is apparent when they say that they apparently have conversations before they do these interviews, which production, by the way, for major radio stations or major media companies, production meetings are normal. Sometimes people will send questions that they are suggesting, right? There's a difference between suggesting a conversation or suggesting a topic and predetermined set of approved questions. There is a massive difference. And it sounds like to me that, one, they take this very seriously, right? Because you can't, when there are people that are looking to confirm their own bias, you can't take the interview back now. They already heard it.
Yeah.
They already heard it. And as a person who's ran an independent media network before, depending on the situation, I might give a warning first. I might at least give a suspension. But in a situation like this, where you organize something behind the backs of the people that you knew better, right? You organize something behind the backs of the people who are in charge. You violated the ethos and pathos of this institution or this radio station, and it looks like you did it for your own gain. You did it at the detriment of your Black audience, and you knew that it is a point of pride for the people that you work for to give the Black audience an authentic interview and hold them in this particular case, Biden accountable and put his feet to the fire. I personally believe that there's nothing wrong with her being fired. I think she'll be fine. I'm sure she'll get a job somewhere else. But that, in my opinion, like, she got to sleep with that at night. That's how I feel. That's really how I feel about it, because you propping up Parkinson's, man. Like, you propping up a segregationist. And it's, for me, it's always worse whenever I see it done. Whenever I see anybody propping up Biden, it's a problem. When I see leftists prop up Biden, it's another problem. When I see women prop up Biden, I get even more pissed. But when I see a Black woman prop up Biden, that shit hit different every time. Because I always think of Anita Hill and Tara Reid. Every single time those are the names and the faces that pop in my, like, y'all know he's a segregationist. But he threw, which we've always seen white men who throw black women under the bus the moment that it becomes convenient. And he threw Anita Hill under the bus in order to get Clarence Thomas elected. Or excuse me, in order to get Clarence Thomas confirmed to the Supreme Court. But then within that same time frame, which is kind of crazy when you think about it, he had already sexually assaulted Tara Reid. And instead of a lot of these women being on the side and reminding people about what Joe Biden has done to Anita Hill, what Joe Biden has done to Tara Reid, they instead pretend like it doesn't happen, and then they lend their credibility, the credibility of their experiences as black women, to whitewash him.
Yeah.
Or blackwash him, depending on what you want to say.
Well,
or pinkwash him even, right?
When especially you have people who fearmonger about Donald Trump, and especially the sexual assault that he allegedly has committed. Baby, the call's coming from inside the house. Because the thing is, you're talking of Joe Biden. Like, why are you popping up another sexual assaulter and a racist? You know what I'm saying?
Segregationist. I like to be very specific with that one. He's a segregationist. Literally, I gotta be specific about this. He didn't just work with segregationists. He fought for them. He fought with them. He was one of the leaders in the legislature, turning his racism into actionable policy that affected black people. Yeah. That is what he is. So for people to say that he has the moral character and the integrity that's somehow different than Trump, why? And even the way he speaks now might sound different because he knows better. I mean, shit, he tried plagiarizing, that didn't work.
Yeah.
You know, that he tried being more conservative than conservatives, that didn't work. People forget this man Biden, if he was a felon, he would be going to jail for life because he about 2-3 time loser as it is.
My question
Everybody keeps forgetting that.
What self-respecting black person would stand with someone like Joe Biden? Especially if you know what he has done. And don't sit there and wave it away, because you'll listen intently to someone who accuses Donald Trump, but you won't listen intently to somebody that accuses Joe Biden.
Yes. Oh boy, they be getting into what's crazy about Donald Trump is they actually start making up some stuff that he's done. That's what be killing me. I'm like, first of all, the crimes that Trump committed while being president are enough. You don't have to make anything up. If you actually are willing to, but the problem is those crimes that he committed while he was president, they either agree with or the Democrats were guilty of or helped or assisted with.
Well,
they can't call those out. So let's in big crimes or pretend like he did something uniquely bad or like Trump and his relationship with women is no different, more or less, than Biden and his relationship, except for, Biden, the records are strong, are actually worse. When we talk about like what we know for facts, a lot of things with Trump is hearsay and allegations. Like, I don't really care about the Stormy Daniels shit. Like, okay, he paid somebody to have sex. Like, okay, so he's a politician in DC and he's a billionaire. Okay, that's kind of standard. It's just the reality of the situation. But when people sit here and be like, oh, Biden's a decent man. No, he's not. No, he's not. He's not a decent man.
Joe Biden is an evil man.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that right now. He is an evil man.
With Parkinson.
Be careful of the person who smiles in your face. They both smile. Let's make no mistake about it. But be careful for the one that always says, oh, I'm with you. I got you. And the one who always tries to tout, oh, I got the first black woman vice president. I'm like, okay, yeah, but she was locking us black people up just for some Wowie sauce in California.
Yeah. Locking up black people for weed while weed was legal, bro. I'm telling you, that is a special type of crazy. That's a special type of nonsense. How do you set the record for locking up black men for weed when weed was legal? That's deliberate. You knew who your target was. You knew what you could get away with. And you also knew because of where you were at the time, you couldn't be held accountable for it. Because people got to remember, she was being put on the trajectory to be the Senator Kamala Harris, because they had already decided they wanted her to go for the presidency. That had already been decided at earliest 2017, because we know about that article that came out talking about Hillary Clinton's fundraisers getting together in the Hamptons, right, to fundraise for her. But it was probably long before that. When they decided to make her the DA, because Mina Harris, her sister, was one of Hillary Clinton's chief advisors, they had already been eyeing Kamala for some time at this point. So she was selected for a reason. Yeah. And it was probably like Obama, not even just Obama side of the party, right? But the Ben Carsons of the world, like the Lewises of the world, fake ass, RIP, but fake ass, civil rights activists that just happen to find themselves in front of a camera, and then all of a sudden they find themselves in front of a lifelong relationship with Congress, right? Like, they always find themselves in a position to pretend like they are for Black people, but then they're the ones who screw us the most. And that's not an accident. Joanne Reed, right? Another one. Van Jones, Jesus Christ. I mean, I can go on. The list is like extensive, and it's in both parties. So it is particularly, to me, it is particularly damaging when you have people like Joanne Reed. Well, Joanne Reed actually says she doesn't like Biden, which is kind of surprising. I'm not gonna lie to you. But you got people like, Stacey Abrams coming out and defending Joe Biden, calling him moral, saying that he has a strong moral compass, he has all this integrity. AOC, remember when AOC acknowledged what happened to Tara Reid and still endorsed Joe Biden? People forget about that. I did, because I was livid. I couldn't believe what I heard.
That's
still
disgusting.
Endorsed them. Exactly.
That's disgusting. Yeah.
And you're lending your experiences as a woman, as a person of color, as a Black woman, in many cases, you're lending your experience to give credibility to a sex pest and a segregationist. Like, I don't know how you sleep at night. Clyde Burns, same thing. I don't know how these people sleep at night knowing that they're doing that. Let me check out the super chat real quick and we'll get on to the next topic. Y'all make sure y'all like and share this video. Make sure you subscribe if you just got here. Appreciate you guys who's been sticking around. Y'all make sure to go to the link and follow Jaybe. Help that man get to 5,000 subs on YouTube. Sentient Dreamer, member and super chat giver. Appreciate you. Being on the spectrum equals not lying or being fake. Yup. Hell, it means a lot of times you just don't have the ability. I remember in high school, probably middle school, not as much high school. High school, I didn't really give a fuck. But in middle school, because you're trying to figure out your identity because it becomes such an important part of your life, and you don't realize it. But I was like trying to figure out who I was. And then like if I tried to fit in, I realized I actually hated it. I was revolted by it. I'm like, ugh, no, I don't like that. Why the hell I talk? Why did I say that word? I don't say that word like that. And I just realized I don't even feel comfortable doing it. So as I got older and just accepted, like, you are who you are, bro, it was easier for me as far as how it made me feel and how I went about my day-to-day life. But it actually becomes problematic for everybody around you because they realize, oh shit, this person's gonna be who they are regardless. And it violates the social contract of neurotypical people that they have created and didn't really inform. They don't have to inform each other, right? They all know that they're wearing the mask. They all know that the other people in front of you are going to accept it. But when you are on the spectrum only just enough socially, the neurotypical people will find out before you do. Because they, especially in your relationships, they will find out before you do, and they will adjust accordingly. And you won't realize it because you're assuming until you figure out why you process and see the world the way you do and why you're so honest and truthful, until you understand that everybody else isn't like you, because as you also become, you're a little bit naive when you lack the experience if you're on the spectrum. You're like, why wouldn't everybody else just be honest and straight up? I don't see that. It's kind of easier than maintaining a lie and a mask all the time. Yeah, it's easier for you to tell the truth and be straight up. It ain't easier for them. It's easy. It's less energy for you to do that. And then you find out, oh shit, am I getting punished for not playing this game? Because I decided to play, Monopoly instead of dominoes? Like, am I getting punished for this? But yeah, that actually happens. People figure it out and they will punish you because they know and they don't even know why they're doing it, but they know that you're not playing the same game as them, if you're in the same job, right? What we do, for example, you're a problem now because you're unpredictable, because you're going to expose them. That's what happens. So like whenever you got people like myself, Jaybe or Sabs or Nick or Bree, like we are problematic in a lot of ways, like especially in 2020, because we were all like, nah, we're not voting for Joe Biden. We all remember what he did. I don't understand why we're even having this conversation. But I remember I was getting shitted on. I mean, people were coming at me harder than anybody else. Like I had said something uniquely different. I had been in a lot of debates. I'm getting shitted on by some leftists. They're focusing on me. I'm like, bring more politics. She getting the Democrats is going after her. I'm getting leftists coming after me because I'm like, I'm not voting for Joe Biden. Y'all are stupid if you're voting for Joe Biden, especially black people. I don't even understand why I have to tell y'all this. Y'all just spent an entire primary exposing his record. Why are we having this conversation? But it was because they're like, hey man, you're not supposed to be telling people about this shit, bro. You're supposed to shut up, let us lie, because we got bills to pay. And if you start telling the truth about Joe Biden's record with black people and how it's no different, then now we got to start telling the truth or we going to get exposed. And you're not playing the game right. Sorry, I didn't know we were playing the game to begin with. So,
that's a bunch of people in independent media or independent media. They do that. They do not like us because we'll actually expose what's really going on. And then next thing you know, we're messing up the gravy train for the rest of them. And a lot of them got 3, 4, 5, 6, $700,000 subscribers. And they're like, oh, well, we just got to go with Joe Biden. And then the moment we speak up, they're like, oh, we don't want to hear what they have to say. Look at what Kyle Kalinske did. Okay. I'm sorry. I hate the name drop, but look at what Kyle Kalinske did when that Mediaite article came out.
Please name drop. I like name dropping. You know I love name dropping, Jay. I said, please name drop. You know I like name dropping. We don't got to be general. We keep it a band here.
All right. So remember when he went over the Mediaite article that placed RBN on the furthest left in the Mediaite article?
Yeah, I forgot about that. That was dope. I remember that.
And remember when he went over it and he saw Lee Camp on there and he looked at RBN and he skipped over our name completely because he didn't want to say our name.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. Yup. Yeah. I forgot. And they thought that putting y'all far left was actually going to be was an insult. And y'all were like, yeah.
We were like, victory! Oh man, we were excited. Oh my God.
Y'all, bro, you weren't even close. Y'all were in a whole
different. Nick was like, I was like,
different continent. It's like, damn, okay, cool. That means our message is getting across. That's what's up. And everybody thought that it was an insult. But yeah, no, that happens. Oh man, I've had people quote, like literally take quotes from me verbatim, cover something that I covered that went viral, something that I did up for Hotspot. And I'm not going to say this name because I'm friends with this person still. And they actually reached out and apologized to me for it. But like literally quoted me verbatim and said a well-known independent journalist and left it at that. I was like, the fuck? That's crazy because any other time you have an opportunity to bring on an independent journalist to cover something that they broke, that went viral, you bring them on, first of all, and interview them. And at the bare minimum, you mention their name. But they brought someone else on to talk about my story and then didn't even mention my name. Yeah, which was bizarre. I was like, that's fucking weird. But that's unfortunately, that's the experience that I have a lot of the time. I've had that experience since I've worked with Bernie's campaign. There was a reality that set in for a lot of people. And I to this day, I'm always proud to say, because people, if you're new here, for those of you who don't know, I worked for Bernie's campaign in 2016. I not like a little bit. I was the guy. Basically, I was so good at what the hell I did that whenever I did not endorse him out the gate in 2020, people were livid because they were expecting me to sell Bernie's policies to everybody rather than being objective and holding him accountable while also talking about his policies. They didn't want me to hold him accountable. But I couldn't let go of what I saw in 2016, and I couldn't let go of how the way that he dismissed the DNC fraud lawsuit, because for me, that just let me know he's gonna let this shit happen again. So, but I was the acting state director while I was still a senior at University of North Carolina, while I was still leading the colleges from North Carolina for Bernie, while I was still heading up and coordinating the student movement around the country. Like while taking the LSAT, by the way, which fucking sucked. That was miserable. Cause you know, if you ever studied for the LSAT, bro, you get to a point where you actually have to take a test every day to practice, right? But my point is the Democratic Party for North Carolina wanted me to be the leader of the Black Caucus for Orange County. They wanted me to literally, like, I was young as hell. They wanted me to run for Congress for North Carolina, right? This was, cause I was the most qualified person in independent media to talk about not only what was happening in Bernie's campaign, but politics in general. Like, I wasn't just some kid that just got famous for talking shit about Democrats, Republicans. I actually got paid for what I did at one point. Experts, consultants, and politicians consulted me before making decisions, before making statements. I've written policy, okay? And people who know me know that. And that's a threat. Because especially at the time, I was only 27, 28, maybe turning 29, which was young as hell to have as much political experience as I had at the time, right? So it's crazy when you see, like, skipping over RBN conversations. We see, you know, Mr. Beast get celebrated because he has the means to do whatever he does. And I appreciate what Mr. Beast does. I don't know why people hate on him. It's kind of weird. But like my issue is I see Rome out here going broke, trying to feed people on the street every day. And it does not get celebrated in a way that some random ass white kid with money did it. You're like, oh my God, look, he's just so awesome. And hell, Rome don't even film half the stuff he does. So there's that, right? Like I said the other day, that's just something we got to work on as a community. We need to figure out why it keeps happening and how we keep allowing it to happen. Because that's how we keep getting deceived. There is an actual quantitative, there's a quantitative problem that keeps reoccurring. Like, you can measure it. How do we end up at Joe Biden and Donald Trump?
Again.
Because in 2016, there were too many people. I'm going all the way back there. In 2016, there were too many people, Jaybe, that were listening to TYT still, that were listening to Sam Cedar still, that wanted to ignore or even defame the DNC fraud lawsuit rather than acknowledging what it is and what they said about stealing the election. And whenever y'all had, there was options and people who were telling the truth. There were like, yeah, some people went to Jimmy, right? So that was good. Jimmy broke away. But like, there were other people. It wasn't just Jimmy. Jimmy had the audience from TYT follow him, which was dope. But there were not enough people that had the bigger audiences allowing people to see those who had the experience and were telling the truth. Or they even went out of their way to smear those people who were telling the truth, only to now turn around and be like, oh, well, yeah, I guess they were right the whole time, but we still not gonna talk about that. Because they believe that their profit lies in appearing to be the truth teller. They have to be right, and it can't be anybody else. So, man, with that being said, sorry for that bloviated fucking speech. But let me read the super chat before we go on to the next topic. Egg64, thank you very much for the super chat. Bro, go look up the first Native American VP back in the day if you get a crash course in all skin folk and kinfolk. That shit is absolutely wild. You said Native American, like indigenous VP? You know, I've heard about, there's an indigenous VP, and I've also heard like before the US became the actual US, there was a black president. Roger Meadows, thank you very much for the super chat. Niko, moved back to Florida to help Jay write CBI policy. We need Jay. Who's Jay? You got hey, help JB? Is that what we're talking about?
That's what he's saying.
I mean, I got a computer. We can write its policy. I mean, that's not.
I mean, hey.
I mean, look, I don't make no kind of moves like that until I got to get paid for this services now. I got mouths to feed, so I don't just be making moves just to be making them for free anymore. I got taken advantage of way too many times for all that. So
Understand.
look, but I'm all about writing some policy. Y'all know that. Now, we got some hilarious news to report.
Uh-oh.
Your favorite congresswoman and mine, Jaybe, AOC.
Why you gotta do me like that, bro?
Nah, AOC just got unendorsed by DSA.
All right,
You
I'm
know,
out.
yeah, you know you're doing bad. Speaking of being left, you know you're doing bad whenever DSA.
She done did it now.
Yeah,
If you get DSA to say goodbye, well, you know you messed up.
look, I'm trying to tell you, y'all don't know how bad DSA is. Some of y'all, if you just started paying attention, boy, they might as well be Democrats. A lot of people actually literally call them like they're just like the Democrats of America. I don't know where they get that socialist from, but they might as well be Democrats because they're gonna do whatever the Democrats tell them to do. But you got to do something pretty. You got to piss them off, or they have read the room and have realized that you are not who you thought you were, and now they have the green light to hold you accountable, which is what we're seeing in the media, which is what we're also seeing in a lot of these organizations. They're like, ooh, we get to pretend like we're honest actors again. Let's go ahead and jump on top of this, right? We've seen it with Gaza, we've seen it with Joe Biden, and I think that we'll be seeing this for the rest of the election cycle until it's time for them to, to be good Democrats again. But here it says on Sunday, June 23rd, the DSA National Political Committee voted to endorse Representative Ocasio-Cortez so long as she fulfills the following conditions: publicly opposes all funding to Israel, including the Iron Dome, participates regularly in DSA Federal Socialist in Office Committee, publicly opposes all criminalization of anti-Zionism, such as bills advancing the IHRA definition, which conflates criticism of Israel with anti-Zionism, and publicly supports BDS, which is the boycott, divest, and sanction to end Israeli settler colonialism. Well, they shouldn't have endorsed her at all because she already voted to fund the Iron Dome. So I don't know why. Like, that probably shouldn't have ever been an endorsement. And it says that the initial endorsement request was considered upon request of New York City DSA Steering Committee. Earlier this week, the NPC received a request from the NYC DSA Steering Committee to withdraw the endorsement because it took place after the New York Democratic primary and they did not expect a conditional endorsement or feel it was strategic. What did I just say? What did I just say? I said, yeah, we're going to go ahead and make ourselves look like we on the right side of history again. It's not strategic to get behind Biden. It's not strategic to get behind Israel. I don't know why they keep pretending it is. Because we have not seen enough evidence of AOC meeting these conditions, and at the request of the NYC DSA Steering Committee, the NPC is withdrawing our conditional endorsement of Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, although she will remain endorsed by our New York City chapter. In the last several months, thousands of DSA members provided input about the prospect of a national endorsement through town halls, meetings, and engagement in their chapter's discussions. And AOC was invited to speak at a member forum. Many members have supported a national endorsement, while at the same time demanding that AOC demonstrate a higher level of commitment to Palestinian liberation, self-determination, and the immediate end to the heinous genocide in Gaza committed by Israel that aligns with the DSA's positions and expectations of a socialist in office. We recognize that AOC has taken many courageous positions on Palestine, such as co-sponsoring several House resolutions, 3103, 786, 496, naming Israel's genocide, as well as eventually, right? As well as opposing House Resolution 894. However, members have raised their concerns regarding a number of her votes, including a vote in favor of House Resolution 888, conflating opposition to Israel's right to exist with anti-Semitism. AOC also co-signed a press release on April 20th, 2024 that supports strengthening the Iron Dome and other defense systems. She didn't only vote to sign a press release, she actually voted to strengthen the Iron Dome. I don't know why everybody just kind of keeps forgetting that. Finally, AOC recently hosted, this is what killed it. Finally, AOC recently hosted a public panel with leaders from the Jewish Council for Public Affairs lobbyists for the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism. On this panel, she conflated anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism and condemned boycotting Zionist institutions. This sponsorship is a deep betrayal to all those who've risked their welfare to fight Israeli apartheid and genocide through political and direct action in recent months and decades in the past. So there you have it, people. AOC, she ain't even Democrat, bro. I literally just tweeted this out today. I said it's crazy. We're at a position now where not just with the Israel and Palestine situation, but with Biden, where like the Democratic elite are brave enough to come out against Biden. And the ones who ran on challenging the Democratic elite are too cowardly to challenge Biden in his war, not only just in not only just the genocide in Gaza, but the war in Ukraine.
You know, it's funny. Has the DSA endorsed anybody like Dr. Cornel West or Dr. Jill Stein?
No. And in 2020 or 2016, excuse me, they had the opportunity to endorse Dr. Jill Stein, and there was a lobby trying to get it to happen, and they refused because they didn't want to mess up their standing with the Democratic Party. Okay.
Because there's also another press release from DSA talking about DSA statement on 2024 election, drop out Biden. That came out on June 28th. Mm-hmm. My thing is if you don't want to endorse AOC, then why not endorse somebody that's in a third party that opposes Israeli apartheid and genocide? Why not endorse them who are not endorsing this extermination of the Palestinian people? Why stick with a party where you have a whole bunch of turncoats that are actually still endorsing and funding this extermination? I'm starting to use the word extermination more because it's more appropriate. Because a lot of people are using genocide and now starting to lose a sting. I'm using the word extermination.
Which is crazy, by the way. Right? It's crazy that we've said the word genocide so much that now we got to be like, it's an extermination. Like, if y'all understand that, then like if genocide is too soft, apparently people don't get it. But go ahead.
Yeah. So why isn't DSA endorsing an anti-extermination candidate? Because the thing is, like, they're saying, oh, they want Joe Biden to drop out, but that doesn't mean they're leaving the Democratic Party. They just want Joe Biden.
Say it again, Jaybe. Say it again. Say it again.
So my question is, where's the integrity? See, here's my thing. They're trying to keep their integrity when people like me, they don't have any integrity at all. Because if they actually had the integrity, they would drop the Democratic Party like third period French and start going to another party that actually is substantively better on the issues, even though that party may not have as good of a chance for the White House. But here's the crazy part. When Bernie Sanders was running in 2016, 2020, how much did DSA's numbers expand when Bernie Sanders was running?
Boy, listen. People forget Bernie Sanders was a bank. Now, 2016, 2020, especially 2020, but it started in 2016. And once again, I'm not speaking from hearsay. For people that do not know, I was in the shit. I don't know how I was there. I was involved. People got rich. That Bernie was a bank. You couldn't, the reason that if you were a leftist and you didn't come out, or if you were even independent and you didn't come out and endorse Bernie right away, if you didn't do that, people came after you. Do you know why? Because you're messing with their money. Okay. His rallies weren't rallies, they were rock shows.
They were.
You know what I'm saying? Like, It was like that. It was, you can make so much money off of being part of Bernie Sanders campaign. It's ridiculous. DSA got paid. What's that? The climate change group. The one with the kids.
Yeah, I know.
They kind of faded into obscurity recently because they got exposed after endorsing Biden. But Sunrise movement is, yeah. Sunrise. They got paid. The Working Families Party got paid. I ended up, and they were actually an honest group before 2016. That's what's crazy about the Working Families Party. I worked for them in New York while I was working with the Bernie Sanders campaign. It was like a separate thing, but like it was a big beef within the Working Families Party because they used Bernie to get rich, but then to keep favor with, because a lot of Democrats decided to donate to different organizations because they liked Bernie, but they were still Democrats. So in order to keep those donors, whenever push came to shove, Working Families ended up, I'm lying. In 2016, they actually decided not to endorse anybody because it was so split. They were like, "No, we can't do it." But the in 2016 specifically, they should have endorsed Bernie because they raised all this money from him, but they didn't want to piss off the new Democratic donors by endorsing him over Hillary. So like, he was a bank, and a lot of people cashed in, including DSA.
So with that being said, why hasn't the DSA endorsed Dr. Jill Stein or Dr. Cornel West or Claudia de la Cruz? And here's the thing. They have enough pull that because a lot of people go, well, the third parties, they just can't win. Here's the question. Why don't y'all make it happen?
Or like, how can we not? Why can't they win? That's the other question I'd be wanting to know. Well, I know why, but
yes, but here's my gripe. You got these big ass channels that have 3, 4, 5, 6, 700,000 subs that could be pushing somebody outside of the duopoly that actually has more of an agreement and actually is more pro-worker than the rest of these yahoos who are in the Democratic Republican parties. And yet they don't want to give him that much attention because what? Because we need to avert disaster by going with Joe Biden, even though a lot of the disaster that actually happened was because of Joe Biden.
Is it right?
And then people go, well, we just want to stick with the Democratic Party because they're the devil we do know. The devil that you do know gave you Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, the Pied Piper strategy, which was given, thankfully released to us by people like Julian Assange. But that's how we know that we got Donald Trump, because of the Democrats. See, this is the thing. They all work together. Why are you still stuck with them? Because if you really want to talk about how bad Donald Trump is, okay, fine. But who's to blame? And this is what gets me mad about people who fearmonger. Oh my God, the Republicans. Oh my God, good cop, bad cop. Get away, get out of the room. Leave the vote alone.
It ain't even good cop, bad cop. It's like more like one's like it's like a psychopath and a sociopath. Like just a sociopath, a little bit more smooth with it. And you know what I'm saying? Like he's gonna tell me everything I need to hear and want to hear, before they do this, the result is eventually the same. Like,
you know what I like about you, Niko? You know what I like about you?
What's up?
I make an analogy and you add to it.
I'm a force multiplier, man.
It's like I make a Philly cheesesteak and you're like, let me add some mushrooms and some onions to that thing.
Hey, look, won't be anything.
That's what I love about you.
I'll be extra. If I'm gonna be anything, I'm gonna be extra. Shit. Nah, but I 100% agree, man. It's when we know that we could actually build something outside the Democratic Party and the Republican parties, and they can't use the popularity or lack thereof of a candidate, because I watched it happen and I was a part of it in 2016. I watched Bernie Sanders go from 2% to, we all know he got cheated. They had to do, they didn't even see him coming.
No.
They didn't see him coming, which is how they got caught cheating. because they got sloppy, because it was unexpected, because they had never seen, the concept of independent media was new. So there's that. Not completely and totally new, but like it was like the Young Turks, Kyle had his audience, Sam Cedar had his audience, but most of the independent media at the time got behind Bernie. Anyone who was coming up through independent media at the time, if they weren't behind Trump, they came up because they just were so inspired by what they saw from Bernie's campaign that they felt like they had to do their part. And then we witnessed someone go from 2% to breaking records. So y'all can't tell me that it's not possible to build out. Y'all don't have the profit motive. Y'all got, now like a lot of those people who got famous during the Bernie Sanders campaign, they work for certain groups, certain people. They get checks get sent in the mail by certain bosses that they now can't allow a Jill Stein. Can't even talk about what happened. Like everybody wants to know what happened with Jill Stein after 2016. And, she was gracious enough to talk about it on my show. Jill didn't disappear because she wanted to disappear. Jill disappeared because she ran such a successful campaign with Ajama Baraka and then was willing to challenge the elections afterwards. After everybody was screaming election fraud in one form or another, she was one of the only ones willing to challenge. And the Democratic Party spent the next 4 years or 5 years really trying to bankrupt her because of it, and trying to bankrupt the Green Party because of it, because of how successful she was.
Yeah.
And fortunately, she had to suffer in silence because unfortunately, like a lot of the members of the Green Party didn't even want to help her because they just wanted to take advantage of what she did. And then just because that's just the way of people and the way of politics. Whenever she was of no further use, they didn't want to participate in bringing to attention what she was dealing with and going through. But yeah, they tried to bankrupt her because of her success. Now imagine if you didn't have people like Anna Kasparian smearing Jill Stein during that election. People like TYT, Sam Cedar, Emma Vigilant, and everybody had gotten behind her. And she would have had the support to not only take the momentum that she had gained in 2016 and move forward, but also overcome the challenges that the Democratic Party put in front of her because of how successful she was. Because you don't put those challenges in front of somebody if you don't view them as a threat.
Niko, can I ask you a question?
What's up?
If the Republicans are so much a threat, why don't they put this much energy behind doing what they did to Jill Stein to the Republicans?
Well, only to Trump, right? That's it.
I mean, technically they did it to Trump, but it was, if they really wanted to go after Trump. No,
the second time they did it to Trump. The first time they didn't really put that much energy.
Much more. Like, I would have went after Trump for the war crimes, because everybody will talk about, well, he didn't start any new wars. Yeah, but he continued the old ones. He could have went after them after that. And then
he continued the old ones because they told him to. They made him. And remember the biggest complaint about Syria? Do you remember that?
He's a cuck then.
Yeah, no, yeah. Well, so here's the problem, right? Yeah. This is one of the things that I always say for Trump supporters. I'm like, y'all got to admit that this man's not in control, and y'all got to stop letting him convince y'all that he is. Because one of the biggest things that you could point to is everything that happened in Syria. The fact that he came out and said that he wanted to pull the CIA out of Syria after meeting with Tulsi, and then they disallowed Tulsi back in the White House and then removed Steve Bannon because Steve Bannon agreed. He wanted to pull the military out of Syria. He's like, well, I don't even know why the hell we're here. Nobody does. We're pulling them out. Then, out of nowhere, chemical weapons attack, right? Then, boom, just attacks them. And you know what the Democrats' biggest gripe was? Do you remember? Why didn't he get congressional approval first? That was their complaint. Not that he bombed Syria. Not that he didn't conduct an investigation, but just because he didn't get permission to commit the war crime before he committed it. Or with North Korea, one of the only good things that he's done, like he got Kim Jong-un and President Moon to shake hands. Kim Jong-un went into South Korea for the first time ever. Moon went into North Korea for the first time ever. We actually had a chance at peace between the two countries, which is like an insane concept, especially when you think about it right now. And what was the biggest complaint? How could you dare talk to a dictator? Well, I don't know how else I'm supposed to make peace with the guy. Y'all want me to send it? Was it supposed to be through email? Well, how am I supposed to bring peace? We supposed to send through a third party? What do you mean? The biggest complaint was when he actually tried to do something right. That's what was crazy about the whole situation. So whenever I talk about Trump's war crimes, they're inexorably connected to the Democratic Party, because they would only allow him to commit war crimes if he even tried to do something decent. They punished him for it and then flipped the narrative. But the problem was Trump led them. So who's in control?
I would be looking at the Joint Chiefs.
Yeah.
I'll be looking at the
Joint Chiefs. They just be answering, they answer the lock-key to them. They don't really.
Yeah, but, Chief of Staff and all those people, in the alphabet agencies that, I would look at. But my thing is, like, everybody's like, oh my God, Trump will be a dictator due to this new ruling by the Supreme Court. And I'm like, Obama killed Anwar al-Awlaki, U.S. citizen, and he killed his 16-year-old son in a drone strike.
Yeah,
we're going to talk about one
this is just reconfirming what we already know.
did. You guys aren't going like, oh my God, over that. My thing is like, keep that same energy for Donald Trump that you do for Joe Biden, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, and Bill Clinton. Keep that same energy.
Yeah, because they didn't confirm anything new. Like, that's what's crazy. I'm like, yeah, the immunity that he may get as president, like, they're just confirming what we already knew. We know that Obama had 96% civilian kill rate with the drone strikes, and it's not like he was getting congressional approval every drone strike.
Yeah.
He was doing it. He basically created a method, and he created a path where he could just drone strike without telling anybody, and say, "Oh, I'm a commander in chief." So there you go.
Yeah.
Right. Bush started two illegal wars. Go ahead.
Well, lest we forget, because Americans seem to have this amnesia. I'm gonna make a statement, and people can disagree with me all they want, but the facts are still the facts. George W. Bush is worse than Benjamin Netanyahu.
That statement. Tell me how.
1 million Iraqis. How many Palestinians? I mean, what, the Lancet came out?
But you got to count everybody he killed in Lebanon, everybody he killed in Syria. The numbers start adding up. Now, it ain't 1 million, but the intent, it's pretty close. Because
well, here's the thing,
because Iraqis can at least run away. Palestinians at this juncture in Gaza, at least in West Bank, they can't even run. They have nowhere to go. So it's going to be different.
That's true. I'll concede to that, but you would at least argue that they're both neck and neck, right?
Yeah, it's a close race. It's a damn close race.
But yet we still praise George W. Bush because he leaned on the first black first lady, because she gave him a piece of candy, and we somehow whitewash his atrocities. I guarantee
I ain't in that we. I don't know about you. I ain't in that we.
I know you're not, right? Because you're pretty, politically inept, and you actually have a memory. I think it's the locks, but but I need to grow my hair out because of that. But one of my biggest points is, a lot of times we will forget the atrocities of the prior president because there's a new boogeyman. I guarantee you this, in 10 years, the corporate media is going to start whitewashing Donald Trump. He's going to get invited onto MSNBC. He's going to get invited to CNN. They're going to chop it up. They're going to be like, oh, yeah, President Trump, blah, 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 blah. Next thing you know, he's going to be just like what we're doing to George W. Bush. And that's how it's allowed, because the Democratic Party also helps control the media, just like the Republican Party, and it gets recycled. And the thing is, we're saying stop falling for the same okie doke every single time. And, a lot of people will look at me and go, well, Jaybe, Project 2025 is going to happen. Aren't you scared? I'm like, I'm not more scared than what I was before. I'm like, look, I wear 3 different hats that people like me are scared, of Project 2025. I have the gay hat, I have the black hat, and I also have the disabled hat. So,
and you got the American hat. Don't forget that, because it's basically just it's a bunch of shit policy. So you're just in America. So that's the 4th one.
True. My thing is like, look, It's all the same. Now we've gotten away from the whole AOC thing, but my point is that if we're going to condemn people for the actions that they take, then why are we sticking with the same exact party that has allowed these things to happen? If you're being abused at home by your parent and your other parents there, and they're all still allowing it to happen, then that other parent is an accessory to the abuse that has been happening to you. The exact same thing that's happening to us in this country. The Democratic Party is an accessory at the very least to the abuse that we have been enduring in this country, if not being the actual abuser in this country. And so therefore, when we talk about walking away from the duopoly, we mean walking out of the house. Don't just go from one room to the next. Because
that's what I hate about Brexit. Whenever people talking about, remember the Brexit movement? I was like, oh, so y'all leaving the field, or y'all leaving the house for the fields? Is what you telling me? Because that's all Brexit is. They weren't talking about leaving the duopoly. They weren't talking about starting up an independent movement, right? Because I saw what that looked like. Ice Cube tried that, and everybody tried to punish him for it. It made him like he was crazy. Because I remember when he was having that realization in real time, he's like, hey, I don't know if y'all know this, but y'all know both parties are kind of shit. I'm just finding this out right now. Like, he was like having that realization on Twitter, and I'm like, welcome to the party, my man. And they trashed him for it. And I'm like, bro, it was the same week. Well, no, it was like a week removed from Lil Wayne coming out and endorsing Trump, right? Because Trump pardoned him. And I'm like laughing because, bro, when I tell you that shit almost got no airtime, Lil Wayne endorsed Trump and almost nobody cared. Ice Cube said both parties are bad, didn't endorse anybody, and somehow it meant he absolutely was endorsing Trump and he didn't care about black people. And it was a topic of discussion for 2-3 weeks. And they just tried to slander that man. I remember Don Lemon brought him on to try to slander him. Well, hey, shout out to Don Lemon, man. You got fired from CNN, and somehow you found the time to finally get a fucking barber. I am so proud of you for getting the temple taper finally, instead of getting your hair cut by your mom, because that's what it looked like for the longest time. We all know what Don, but you know what I'm saying? Like, but for real, like it's true. He looked like his Don Lemon haircut used to look like he gets his hair.
I can't say nothing because I need a haircut myself. So
look, man, that's different than like to deliberately get your hair cut in the way that he used to get it cut. That's wholly different. And he gay. You can't be a gay black man with a bad haircut.
Who did you line up? Stevie Wonder?
You gotta be right. You can't be a gay black man. You gotta like be right with your style, man. Come on.
Like you.
Damn, boy. But nah, in all seriousness, no, you're absolutely right. And this is another example. It's AOC, because she's been a topic of discussion lately. You see that she introduced articles of impeachment. Coincidentally, on Thomas and Alito. Now, she says it's because it's for failure over decades to disclose that they received millions of dollars in gifts from individuals with businesses before the court is explicitly and that's explicitly against the law, which we know. This was 3 specific claims that she's making. It's failure to disclose financial income, gifts and reimbursement, property interests, liabilities, transactions, among other information. Refusal to recuse from matters concerning his spouse's legal interests in cases before the court. Woo, man, don't look to Ro Khanna, I'll tell you that. Refusal to recuse from matters involving the spouse's financial interests in cases before the court. The second impeachment resolution includes the following impeachment: refusal to recuse in cases in which he had personal bias or prejudice concerning a party in cases before the court. Failure to disclose financial income, gifts, reimbursed. So being politicians effectively, nothing that we are surprised by. Now, is that probably, I mean, she's probably 100% right. I mean, that's, yeah. So it's true.
Articles of impeachment when the story broke out that Clarence Thomas was taking money from Harlan Crow. I talked about this last year. Where were you, AOC?
Hey, JB, you want to know what the numbers are? There's 220 Republicans in the House, 213 Democrats. So, JB, like you just asked, where were they at last year or even 2 years ago?
Where they at, though?
Where basically where were they at when you had the majority? Right? Where like, because it's not like you just now find this information out, but I just find it interesting that when you don't have the majority and you know the articles of impeachment are not going to get passed, it's not even going to make it to the Senate, first of all. Second of all, you happen to introduce these articles of impeachment at the same time you're catching flack for continuing to endorse Joe Biden. And you also happen to introduce them right after this whole situation came down, the whole decision came down with Trump, right? So you're doing this whole song and dance. You're a little bit late to the party because this has been happening. This is not new.
Oh my God.
And also I can guarantee that the other justices have the same conflict of interest and it's been ignored. So I can just guarantee it. At the bare minimum, her colleagues have had those conflict of interest. In Congress.
They make me itch, bro.
Yeah, right. But my point is, for what? What is this? What are you doing this for? I'm genuine. What is it for, JB? What is it?
She's doing
fundraising low. Is it fun? It's fundraising season, basically.
Ultimately, what it really is optics. That's what she's good at.
Is she though? She was.
Okay, I'm giving her a little too much credit. All right.
Yeah.
You got me there. But
yeah.
It's really...
Say ceasefire now. Sorry, I image of her.
Optics, okay. Though. It's always, look what I'm doing. Bro, this is the crying at the southern border in front of the fence again.
Oof. No, I can't believe that was a thing.
I know.
I can't believe people see that and they're like, but she's still okay. I can't believe that anyone would see that and still like, that would be the biggest red flag of red flags for me. I don't know. Cause whenever I found out it was fake, I was like, oh no. That if you're willing to do that, to exploit that situation and that issue in that way, that's, you're a psychopath. You will do anything for fame. And I can't support somebody like that. So,
I hate to see what she'd do for a Klondike bar.
Hey, some things. It looked like she would do some things for some you know. And look, she don't got that much self-esteem, and she don't really. It don't look like she has that much self-worth. She seems like her worth is extremely invested in being liked and the perception of what she, because what'd be crazy is if you ever watch her Instagram lives, but she doesn't really do that much anymore because she got tired of getting smashed in the comment sections because of her stance on Israel. But she would be talking like a revolutionary, bro. Like she actually believed, and I'm like, bro, hold up. There's no way she's saying this shit. And she's talking like she's dead ass serious about the issue. Like she's staying on business. And I'm like, bro, and what would be crazy is like she would talk about the issue on Instagram like she's super passionate about it, and then on Twitter, her own like representative AOC Twitter account has the opposite stance. Like Bernie does. But Bernie's Twitter will say one thing, but then he'll go on TV and say the opposite. I'm like, do y'all have zero coordination between the Twitter staff and Bernie himself? It seems like they don't. But yeah, I can't. AOC is particularly annoying. Now I don't know. I can't personally decide. No, yeah, I do. It's Bernie. I was gonna say, did you see that tweet? You see that tweet? I tweeted out something. I didn't know it was gonna be this big of a deal. Just responding because, like I said, I got personal experiences with Bernie's camp and AOC's. Really, they were almost inextricably linked. And they said, who are you more disappointed by, Bernie or AOC? I said, as horrible as AOC is, there's never been a single politician in the history of the United States, of U.S. politics, who stole more money from the working class while masterfully masquerading as a revolutionary like Bernie Sanders did. And I mean, got a lot of likes. A lot of people clearly feel the same way, but a lot of people were pissed. And I'm like, I don't understand how this is even debatable right now. Because at the end of the day, and like I said, also I said that people went broke, gave up their jobs, and put their credibility on the line, and everything to fight for a political revolution, quote unquote, that he had never had any intention on actually fighting. And we wouldn't even have to suffer AOC if Bernie didn't create the path for her grift. Right? So like there are reverberating consequences to what he did. So
yep.
I feel like I mean, who do you feel more disappointed by, Bernie or AOC?
Damn, why you gotta ask me that?
Damn, you okay, man? You good?
that's like who's worse, Skeletor or Mumra? I'm gonna say Bernie.
Why is that?
Because he owe me money.
Hey, on God, listen. Listen
I
to the
I
track.
didn't give him a lot of money because my ass is broke. It was like $5 a month, but that's $5 a month that I actually needed. That I was actually I'm going to invest in my future, so I'm going to send him $5.
Yep.
And I only sent it for like 8-9 months, but that's still a lot of money for me. But I'm like, bro, you owe me money from all the times that I sent you money, thinking, those times where I spent money to go to that gay club where there was a Bernie rally where we actually watched debates and we were cheering for you. Like, I spent money to try to get over there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, come on now. Like, bro, you owe me. And the thing is like, you have been failing me time and time again. And people go, well, he's done all these different policies. And I'm like, yeah, but all these policies are milquetoast. They're not far enough,
Yeah, and also, he hasn't done anything. I don't know where people keep saying he's done policies. He did a few good things in Vermont, but he actually undercut an actual independent candidate by working with the Democratic Party in Vermont once. So there was somebody who wanted to go even further in Vermont to help them, to do some of the stuff that Bernie did, but more, basically. So he's been working with the Democratic Party to undercut independence. And that might have been forgiven if he would have just fought. Right? If he fought and didn't win, like if he went to the convention and actually put up a fight against Hillary, challenged the election, and because we had the lawyer, I mean, I can go into that story for days and days. Not only did we have the lawyers to prove it, and we had the information to prove it, but we had WikiLeaks, which proved it. He could have fought. He could have asked people, and we were willing to fight. And instead, he was like, nah, just go ahead and get behind the party, guys. And you know what? I could understand why a lot of people said, well, let's just give him a second chance, because this time is different because he's not playing from behind. There's no one who really has the name recognition, the popularity, and the fundraising vehicle like through independent donations, which is more important, especially when you're trying to account for like the voters, than Bernie did. And the second time, all you had to do was not quit. And you might have won that damn primary. Because there were people that actually flipped at the convention. People don't know that. A lot of those votes, those delegates got flipped at the convention. So states that they thought that Bernie had thought he lost, he actually won. People didn't know that because, like, the pandemic kind of threw everything off. People stopped paying attention to that stuff. But yeah, all he had to do was probably just last, and he bowed out. And I'm like, bro, you can't blame the pandemic for bowing out. Whenever, like, the pandemic should have been the reason that you stayed in.
Yeah.
If anything.
If in fact, and I'll look, I tweeted this out 4 years ago. I said Bernie should go scorched earth right now. And I got flack from people back then. And then, honestly, if Bernie would have lost the Democratic Party still, knowing that they cheated him, I would have still ran independent. I would have changed my party affiliation back to independent, and I still would have ran. I would have y'all should listen to and if Trump wins, that's on y'all. Y'all should have listened to me.
Exactly.
And I would have split that vote. I don't care. I'm old. I'll retire after this. You know what I'm saying?
I'm old. People give me
I'm going all the way. Because the thing is that if you really care about the people, you're going to go all the way.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Because if you respected the people, bro, that's people's hard-earned money, like people's labor that they put into it. Like I said, people think I'm joking when I say people quit their jobs. That's not hyperbole. I know people who quit their jobs because they felt like this is a moment that we can't miss. And Bernie sold us that. I've been to more than one rally of Bernie's, not only just him, but his surrogates. And they sold it as like, this is our moment. You need to stop whatever you are doing and you need to go out and fight. And they said it because they're going to do the same. Whenever that moment, whenever push came to shove, whenever it was time for the rubber to meet the road, they was on hover bikes. We was there waiting. Rubber never met the road. We were still waiting. We're like, hey, man, hey, is he coming? Nah. Nope, nothing. $300 million. More than that. That's the $300 million that got donated to him. That's not the labor, the free labor that he got out of people. Right? Wow. That's not the people who put their livelihood on the line. I mean, people, boy, I can't even tell y'all, bro. There's some people that was out here giving older people because Medicaid or Medicare rather is so bad that they were like, it's worth on a fixed income giving this man $150, $200 a month because they were so desperate for universal health care. And this man didn't even fight for them.
Income.
Huh?
I'm still on a fixed income, and I was giving him money, $5 a month.
That's what I'm saying. And if he fought, I'm not even mad at you for losing. I wouldn't even be as mad about the position. I would still be mad about it. I would still be going at your neck about some of these positions you're taking, like these Zionist positions that you were taking. I was mad at him back then for it. But and actually, no, I got shit for calling him out for his Zionist positions back then, which was weird as hell. Because I'm like, hold up, we're ignoring it because we want to protect Bernie? Well, damn. Why are y'all not, if y'all were one of those people, some of those people that were defending some of the shit that he did, how are you not madder than me? Because the reason that y'all said that y'all were defending him is because ultimately he was a better person to do the job. But what we found out is that when he had the power, when Democrats had the House and the Senate and the White House, he used zero leverage. And his whole thing was, hey, my people, just go vote for him. We're going to push him left. And instead they went out to brunch. I guess that what they meant is they're going to make a left turn at Cracker Barrel and they're going to chill. That's what they meant by pushing left because they haven't even tried. How, bro, if you can't push a motherfucker left when he got Parkinson's, Jaybe, he's our candidate. You not even going to try to push him left. You not going to try to get your policies when he got Parkinson's.
All you gotta do is do the bump and boom,
literally any other time. Anybody, he needs Bernie and his people and AOC and a little bit of people she got left, even the Democratic elites, but definitely Bernie's people. Because Bernie, when he's on, he has a vehicle that he could use because people still try to make money off of him. He could flip this race for you. All you have to, if you can use it to your advantage. He got Parkinson's. And you're like, nope, we're just going to give him the office again because Donald Trump is the single biggest threat to democracy in U.S. history. Like, no, our democracy is basically non-existent as it is. So
wait,
you ain't gonna sell that. You ain't gonna sell me on that point.
How is Donald Trump the single biggest threat to our democracy when you literally have Joe Biden funding an extermination of Palestinian people right now?
Well, because he uses, so what he says is January 6th, but I'm like, but if you were there, you would know, like, he didn't tell them to go there. He didn't tell them to go there. He didn't say that. He had a rally, and then some people decided to go and do whatever they did, which is a whole different conversation because I don't want to get knocked off of YouTube. But if y'all were there, if y'all saw the footage, y'all seen them cops and how they were letting them in. Y'all know about the FBI being fully aware of what plans were and doing nothing about it. Like the single and who was in charge. Like the Democrats that were given word ahead of time and decided to do nothing about it. So we're talking about single greatest threat to democracy. What about Hillary Clinton and her party who literally tried to use the FBI to overthrow the presidency of the United States with a lie that he was working with Russia to cheat? Like that's what I would probably call a threat to democracy. Or the fact that just from a general or abstract perspective, we have election. The reason people, and this is something I always bring up because people need to understand, we don't know. When people say, well, do you think Trump was cheated or do you know that he was cheated or Biden was, if Biden won legitimately, I say, no, we don't. I don't know. How can I possibly know that? because he has to sue just to get audits. You get what I'm saying? Like, we can't get a proper count. That's the fucking problem. Is that I shouldn't have to sue for my goddamn election. You know, the elections determine the outcome of in the future of the entire country. Like, everybody, if you're a citizen, and you don't have a felony, are allowed to vote in the elections because it affects everybody. The reason that they said that you can't, that Trump can't ban people on Twitter is because it's a public square, and everyone has to be able to see what the president is saying. That is how important that position is. But private companies own our election machines, and I have to sue through a federal judge to force that private company to open up the machines and audit them to make sure that my vote counted. First of all, why is that company in charge of my vote? Second of all, why do I have to go through a federal judge to audit? Which it should be an automatic
privatization that I hate. Because people are like, oh, we need to start privatizing things. Like what, our elections?
Look, the worst part, Jay, the worst part is those federal judges, their boss is the executive branch. People forget that. People complain about those judges. Hey, look, those judges, they earned their paychecks because, Trump appointed them, but like Trump didn't really appoint them. He had a staff to do that. He didn't know nothing about no politics. But you remember who fast-tracked them? You remember who fast-tracked them? Them Democrats. Everybody forgets that. Mm-hmm. They earn their paychecks. Mm-hmm. Those federal judges are not elected. They're not. And people forget that. So, like, the problem is like, people want to argue with me about whether or not he got cheated. How could you say that it's a possibility? I said, no, it's always a possibility because that's the U.S. democracy. But the fact of the matter is, you don't know, and you can't possibly know because our system has been set up in such a way that they deny you the ability to find out. It make it too expensive. And then the moment that somebody who has the money and or a fundraising vehicle to actually challenge and figure out if something was a problematic, something that had some irregularities, if you have the audacity to have the money and the willingness to challenge the system, now you're the devil. How could you dare question our democracy? How could you dare question our democracy? I'm like, well, y'all did it with Bush and they did it with Trump. So Trump did it with Joe and now it's a fucking problem?
Yeah. I'm gonna make a statement that's gonna piss some people off, but it's whatever. I'm gonna say at least half of the fault of January 6th is actually the police.
Yeah, I mean, half.
I'm saying at least.
At least, yeah.
At least half of the fault of January 6th is the police. And yet, who gave them more money? Who voted for them to get more money? Was it not the Democrats and Republicans who voted to give the police more money after January 6th? They were the ones who actually opened the gate. I watched it live. They literally opened the gate. Come on in. Let's take a tour through the Congress.
Yep.
So if you actually want to start, if we really want to blame the people who actually had their hands inside the cookie jar, let's start off with the people who have guns and badges in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Let's start off with them.
Metro Police are actually some of the most corrupt. That's like one of the most corrupt police departments in the world. I met the former chief of police for the Metro. Back in the day. And he left. He left because he's like, bro, the stuff that goes on in that police department, you wouldn't even believe. I can't even tell you. He said they probably kill me. But he served for a short period of time and got up out of there. And he actually left the police force, like just policing in general, because of everything he witnessed while he was the chief of police. And every time he tried to hold somebody accountable for doing something, politicians got in the way. And it won't in a nice way. It starts with opportunity, but after you deny enough opportunity, those opportunities become threats. Right? So, and he's like, I got a family, man. I couldn't stay. That's what he said. Let me check out some of these super chats real quick. Project 2025 was always the RNC's planned manifesto forever. Project 2025 could be Project 1985 or 1995. Don't know why the DNC is fear-mongering that. Yeah, or literally 1974. Because that's when the Heritage Foundation basically came out with what is considered to be Project 2025 now. And Reagan already implemented a lot of those policies, and it ain't like we changed them. Hell, you can make an argument that Bill Clinton implemented a lot of those policies.
Well, it's a feedback loop, though. Like, for instance, so they fearmonger about Project 2025, which gets you to donate to the Act Blue of the Democrats. Then the Democrats get back in power. Then the Republicans actually start fundraising off of, oh my God, they're trying to turn all your kids gay. And so then they get money, right, from the right wingers so that the RNC starts to make more money. And then the RNC gets back into power. And then the DNC starts fear-mongering about the RNC again. And so it's a feedback loop that goes around and round and round to keep money in the hands of them and to keep you in the shitter. And that's what it basically is. And every single time, people end up falling for it. And I'm just like, bro, stop believing the stripper, man.
He said, stop believing the stripper. She don't love you, bro.
She don't love you.
Nah, but you sure though, man? Maybe she do. Nah,
Anyway.
Actually, it's funny. I can't even do strip clubs, man. I can't do the fake love. I can't do it, man. I'm like, you don't like me. I know I'm cute though, but like, you don't like me.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm just paying you to do a job.
When I went as a funny story. I went for my cousin's wedding. We went to a strip club. That was the first time I had ever gone. It was hilarious because I ended up actually getting money from strippers to dance. Because I was like just kind of off myself, chilling and drinking, because I just didn't do strip clubs. And of course, eventually a stripper's like, what are you doing? Like, why are you here? Okay, my family's over there doing whatever. My cousin was in the back in the champagne room, heard me talk, hey, cuz, so he's 18, just turned 18. He's like, hey man, so you got $80? I said, motherfucker, for what? $80? He's like, I went to the back, man. She ain't told me I had to pay. I said, boy, you look at us made this money from these strippers. Here you go, dog. But don't go right there again. Oh, man, it was so funny, dog. But yeah, Old Crow, thank you very much for the super chat. Niko, what do you and Jaybe see happening with this election? Will Biden make the polls? I'm assuming you mean will Biden make like the actual election? Like, will he make it that far? No, I'll tell y'all, he getting switched out. He getting switched out at the convention. I don't know why people keep pretending like votes matter when the DNC was very clear. During the DNC fraud lawsuit, we can choose our candidate in a smoke-filled room, you know, smoking cigars, drinking whatever, whiskey, just having a discussion amongst ourselves, and y'all can't do anything about it. I don't know why everybody forgot that conversation, but they will switch him out. I don't think it could be Kamala, but I don't think it'll be Kamala. I think it will likely be Hillary, which is part of the reason why she's been so quiet. Right? Yeah. Hasn't she been suspiciously quiet, Jaybe? Don't you find it interesting how quiet she's been?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Darth Clinton has been pretty quiet.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is usually the type of moment where she loves to be the center of attention. She was even quiet for the most part whenever the SCOTUS came down with their immunity, like to uphold Trump's immunity. I think she put out a tweet, but that was probably her staff. But like outside of Twitter, I was expecting her to make the runs, right? Like all over CNN, MSNBC, podcasts. She didn't go anywhere. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. This is usually the moment, but she can't because then everybody will say, oh, it's Hillary planning on taking Biden out, and that would create some friction, right? Because, you know, they supposed to be buddies. Not really, but really, you know, they at least when it comes to the alignment of their interests. So it would create too much friction. So she's being quiet. But I'll tell you like this, whenever Nancy Pelosi came out and straight up said that it's fair to question whether or not it was an episode or a condition during the debate, right? People forget Nancy Pelosi is a superdelegate. That was a smoke signal. Superdelegates do what they want to. In the case of Nancy Pelosi, for example, all the superdelegates would do, in California would do what the hell she tells them to do. That's how they work, right? In New York, I'm almost 100% certain that the superdelegates there would also go to Hillary. And the pledge delegates, they're not necessarily committed. Everybody thinks that they are, but they flip all the time at conventions. They don't have to. The unfortunate reality is that the precedence has been set that just because y'all voted in these pledge delegates, these candidates earn these pledge delegates during an election, that does not mean that they have to stay with the candidate that y'all voted for once they get to the convention. That is just the reality of the situation. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be Hillary, and second in line is Kamala. But if it's Kamala, it'll be through the amendment, through the 25th Amendment, within the first few months, so that she can get her term in. But because it isn't a full term, she'll be allowed to run again, and then she'll be allowed to run again. So, yep, that's what I think. What you think will happen?
I put out the same prediction too. I feel like it's going to be one of two. I think it's going to be your option, or it's going to be Biden's going to make it to the convention. He's going to get the nomination. Then after the convention, he's going to drop out. Not drop out, but he's gonna switch. He's gonna switch out
after the convention.
After the convention, because the thing is,
I don't think that he can. I think that they would have to hold an emergency convention.
For real?
Yeah, I think they would have to hold an emergency convention.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a whole. Yeah, if he drops out after the convention, it becomes a bigger problem, and I mean, it just creates so much chaos that it almost guarantees Trump a win. The problem is Biden not dropping out now also they fucked themselves. I mean, the moment that they cheated to allow Biden to run again, to be the nominee without challenge, that was it. The race was already decided. Y'all act like y'all didn't know who y'all running against. I mean, we can call Trump a lot of things, but you can't call him unpopular. Right? Like, I mean, I think it was, actually, you know what? We're going to put it on right now. D.L. Hughley said that Donald Trump had increased he said black people chose Biden, and that they had rebuked Trump, and that he only increased his voter base amongst white men. And that's actually not the truth. The truth is, in 2020, Trump became the most popular incumbent in history and actually increased his voter demographic amongst every single demographic except for white men, which was wild. And it's never happened before, which is what gave even more credence to a lot of people that maybe the elections they weren't exactly the most legitimate. So yeah, we're gonna check that out. Darren, what's going on, man? Thank you. Do you think those behind Seth Rich's murder will be held to account? Nope. I'll just go ahead and give the honest answer to that one. Not anytime soon. I'll put it like that. Maybe, but not anytime soon. Will not be anytime soon. That's just because I feel like that's a conspiracy. There's going to be it will be a lot of people involved, and it won't be till after those people die that they'll be allowed to investigate that to the degree that they should and hold people accountable. Maybe it'll be like one of those posthumous prosecutions. Those happen, but it won't be in any way that puts anybody in jail today. Let's look at this.
Today, there's a bigger reaction across the country about whether or not Biden should be on the presidential ticket. Now, Hollywood is weighing in. As we mentioned, George Clooney was urging the party to move on from Biden after the debate, writing in the New York Times, quote, "Our party leaders need to stop telling us that 50 million people didn't see what we just saw. We're also terrified by the prospect of a second Trump term that we've opted to ignore every warning sign."
Whether you like it.
So give Clooney credit for that. I'll give him some credit for that. Because he actually said what a lot of us have been saying, right? They're like, y'all ignored this shit. The signs were there. Y'all ignored it. And not a lot of people have been willing to acknowledge not just ignoring it during this election, but ignoring it for the entirety of his administration. So I'll give him some credit for that.
President Biden has had the legislative agenda that would rival FDR.
Oh, and yeah. So,
what did you just say?
Yeah, you heard that. That's why I knew you want to hear that.
You like this or not? President Biden has had the legislative agenda that would rival FDR.
Made me want to cuss. DL.
Where to start with that one?
Oh my God, DL, bruh. Do you remember what FDR did to Japanese people?
Hey, first of all, that's what I'm saying. This is wrong because he thinks that that's a compliment, which is like, no. I mean, FDR was literally a segregationist his damn self. So if that's what you're trying to say, like, so there's that problem. Like, I mean, the Fair Housing Act literally is responsible for redlining.
Yeah, like what FDR did or didn't do for Black people. Like, why are you praising Joe Biden and trying to make it seem like, oh, he's like FDR? FDR wasn't shit.
Yeah, first of all, exactly. And the fact that you think that you're trying to because he's still living in a world where old Democrats believe that FDR was actually a democratic socialist and that he wasn't upon a corporatist. But I'm like, y'all do know, like, Nazis, they became like dominant and unaccountable under FDR. Like, World War II started under FDR. He had every ability to stop it from happening. He could have sanctioned Germany. Instead, he made sure that the Olympics were held there and helped to bolster the positive image of Hitler. Like, FDR was horrible. He allowed Henry Wallace to get cheated.
Yep.
We can talk about that. Like, but yeah, that shit, there is so much wrong with him saying that. I'm like, that is not the brag you think it is. Also, the brag that you think it is, that is a horrible comparison, because FDR actually, if you want to give him credit for the economy that took place after he became president, like, he actually created a bolstering economy. Now, we can argue about the fact, we could debate about how that happened, but there were some positives that came out of that. The problem is we are in the worst economy of my lifetime worldwide because of the decisions of Joe Biden in the United States.
Yeah. I mean, he's praising the economy that benefit mostly white people, but that was it. Like, what about the rest of us?
No, hold up. And you know the difference between Joe Biden and FDR? See, FDR, you got to give him credit for one thing. If he gonna start a war, that get us paid. Joe Biden starts broke nigga wars. He's starting wars. Everybody going broke. Nobody got money. We getting taxed. Like, it's like the white kid from school buying weed from the hood. Like, he paying 3-4 times what he should normally pay for an ounce, because they're like, boy, you don't know no better. It's just like, we're going broke fighting wars. At least the FDR allowed a war to get started. At least everybody made money. Shit. I mean, that's just a wild statement. And I don't even know where to start with how wild that statement is, but it's D.L. Hughley. He is a funny guy.
And so I think that while people have the right to voice their opinions, they should be rooted in some level of sanity. If you look at where, for instance, George W. Bush and John Kerry were at this time in their race in June and July of that year, Kerry was 7 points ahead of him. If you look at where Barack Obama and Mitt Romney were in their race,
you read them points, bro.
October 16th, 2.5 weeks before that election, Romney was 4 points ahead of Obama. So, and the thing that those two people have in common is the power of the incumbency. So you have openly people advocating for a president to give up the power of the bully pulpit and the incumbency months before a presidential election, which is ridiculous. Historically, no.
That's not what the power of the incumbency means. Okay, whatever. I'm not even gonna go into that. That's just he's confusing that.
No president never gave up.
I mean, when we talk about Obama, first of all, Mitt Romney and Obama, the reason it was so hard to tell them, like, the reason that race was so damn close is because we didn't know who the fuck was who. If Obama wasn't black, we wouldn't have been able to tell the difference between their policies. Literally. So there's that. Yeah. Also 90% of the black vote helps too. So,
well, I mean, yeah, but I mean, at the same time, when it comes to the power of the incumbency, I mean, this just makes Joe Biden look even worse, because I mean, he is an incumbent, and the fact that he's losing, abysmally as an incumbent, like, his numbers should be way higher than what it is, and yet he forgets what planet he lives on. So, like, why are we, and I think DL's trying to say, well, we just need to switch him out. And I'm like,
no, he is not saying that. That's the oh no. You know what? Let him talk a little bit.
Hell no, man. He won the election. It's just never happened.
What I found, there was an interesting point, and I hear you in the historical references. It gives great context to understand how these numbers can shift. But there was a point in this op-ed, and when he talks about how, and I'll read it here, he's talking about how there was new and upsetting information. He talks about, well, no, we all think Republicans should abandon their nominee now that he's been convicted of 34 felonies. And so I just wonder, from the perspective of the timing aspect of it, did you see anything with respect to President Biden and the power of the incumbency that would give you the same level of concern about Republicans trying to replace their nominee because of felony convictions and Biden's 90 minutes?
I think that I interviewed the president on May 29th, a few weeks before the debate at the White House and on Air Force One. Now, obviously, he's an older man. Obviously, there's no disputing that. But let's be clear. The Democrats should be focusing on what's at stake in terms of what they're running against.
You read them notes, DL. Read them notes. Them sunglasses ain't dark enough. We can all see it still. And you can't like turn your head if you're gonna fake read notes. We can see it still, but you read them damn notes.
One thing that I didn't hear George Clooney mention was Project 2025. And I think we have a decidedly different vantage point. If you look at who Project 2025 affects the most, it is communities of color. It is the people who have less than. Now, if you're a straight white male in this country, you could be disappointed in the election, but it wouldn't have disastrous results.
Now, once again, JB, you got something to say? I see you stood up. I see your hairs on you. You're standing up right now. Like you jumped out your chair. You got something to add?
I know D.L. Hughley at his big age ain't trying to fearmonger about a policy that's been around for like 40 years.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is.
Like, bruh, where have you been?
Hey, to black people, he says it's black people. That's who. Once again, like we talked about earlier, I don't know, one, if it's any different than the Republican policies and Republican agenda for decades, but two, this is not. What is it that's, once again, we talk about getting rid of the Department of Education. That don't hurt black people. The Department of Education is probably what the fuck is hurting us now. It's the Department of Education that allows blacks, these schools in predominantly black areas to be underfunded. It's the Department of Education that allows public school funding to be funneled from public schools into private schools and private charter schools. I'm not inherently against all charter schools because I understand that there's special needs private charter schools, special circumstances private charter schools, but that's not what I'm talking about. We talking about the private charter, because those are actually usually more expensive or free. I'm talking about the private charter schools that already got plenty of money. That's the Department of Education allowing that shit to happen. So what we talking about? Department of Education was No Child Left Behind, where you get punished if you do bad and you get rewarded if you do good. And like, yeah, I'm doing well because we already have the funding that we need to do well. So I get more money for doing well in a situation that I was set up to succeed in. Nice. But that was what No Child Left Behind was.
And can we talk about why do we have to have our schools funded by property taxes? Why can't we start funding all schools across the board equally so that all kids will actually have the same opportunities, not just as far as their education, but also how much we spend per student?
Yep. It almost sounds like the Federal Housing Act was part of Project 20 or whatever, fucking 2025. And FDR wasn't born in 1974, but it sounds eerily similar. When I make comparisons to FDR, yeah, that's the problem, is that FDR had a whole bunch of Project 2025 shit in his legislation. And nobody wants to talk about that, but that's who he is. And that is what we talk about when we say the Democrats will just smile in your face after they tell you to go drink at the other water fountain. That's the difference. That's it. That's the only difference. The fact that people think that, do y'all know, I've talked about this on the show before, but JB, I don't know if you know, are you aware that so after the market crash, I don't know if you know, but the only banks that survived that crash were black banks. Did you know that?
I think I remember that. I think that, and as well as the Bank of North Dakota also shielded a lot of North Dakota from a lot of the big issues regarding the 2008 crash too.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the 20s, the Great Depression.
Oh, well.
Great Depression, yeah. Great Depression. But yes, you are correct about that too. But so the reason why is because they responsibly invested. They did not gamble. They didn't participate in the stock market's games because they could see where it was going, right?
Yeah.
So FDR, when he came into power, despite knowing that the black banks survived, forced them to close the same way that he forced the other banks to close, even though there was no indication that they needed to close in order to help the economy recuperate. It was to make sure that those black banks could not get ahead of the JP Morgans, of JP Morgan Chases, of the Bank of America, and the like, because the black banks were about to. I mean, and this whole process during this whole era, you got the Fed in the national budget was being established, and black banks and the black Wall Streets were able to compete with the country, combine their income. They were able to compete with the country when it came to the national budget. It's going to be hard for you to manipulate interest. It's going to be hard for you to sell this idea of the Fed. It's going to be hard for you to sell this idea of a World Bank or whatever if you can't compete with the black people in your own country when it comes to interest. I'm not going to go to the federal government for shit or JP Morgan for shit if I can go to a black bank and get it for cheaper. And I know that they're not going to gamble my money away. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that was FDR. Once again, he did it and nobody talked about it because you weren't allowed to talk about it. Hell, we weren't even allowed to talk about Black Wall Street until recently. So that's what you get from Democrats. And they still will sell themselves as the fucking hero.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think that's decidedly a different thing for communities of color. And I think that the vantage point they speak from, I don't think that he speaks for the people that I speak. I speak to millions of people every day on my radio show. And that's the sentiment I hear that is kind of bantered around. And so I just think the one thing I can say for sure is the reticence that a lot of young black men have with the Democratic Party is the cowardice at every turn, the hand wringing, the fecklessness, and they exhibited it all the time. And it's just a lot to take.
You know, I'm a fan of your show and listen to it all the time. And I want you to unpack a little.
I'm not gonna lie, Jaybe. I actually don't know what the fuck he's talking about. I didn't know what he just said a bunch of shit, and I don't know what he's talking about. So I don't know if you felt want to respond to any of that, whatever he just said, but I understand.
More about what you're hearing on that idea of the cowardice, because one of the criticisms I often hear is Democrats eat their own, that there's a circular firing squad.
Absolutely.
That they attempt to have a moral high ground is to their detriment. And yet, there is something to be said about having a moral compass, about having the high ground, and about calling out wrong wherever it may be. But tell me about what you're hearing from people about how they view these last couple weeks.
Well, here's the thing. LBJ had the moral compass. He left. Richard Nixon became president, and that, for black people, became the onslaught of mass incarceration.
LBJ, the connoisseur of the N-word, had a moral compass. Yeah, you heard that correctly. You heard that correctly, bro. Bro, hey man, that's why, hey guys, you don't just take somebody's notes before you take the test, bro. You gotta check them notes to make sure they right. Okay, so y'all know that for the future. You're gonna sound like this guy. That boy using 2001 talking points, man.
Can we dispense with this really quick?
Go ahead.
This is why CNN got DL on. This is why CNN got DL on and they don't have Niko on. This is why CNN got DL on and they don't have Nick Cruz on. This is why CNN got DL on, but they don't have Sabby Sabs on, because they know he will keep you within the same system that screwed you over in the first place. This is why. And this is some revisionist BS, because LBJ was just as racist, if not just as more racist than Nixon. Because the thing is that they all run the same circles. They all run the same clubs. All right. LBJ was forced to do what he needed to do in order to keep things, quelled in the nation. And when it comes to saying that, LBJ was better for black people, he and Nixon were part of the same club.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we differentiating?
Yeah. Also, LBJ didn't pass the Civil Rights Act. That was Congress, and that was because of the hard work of Black people and their allies around the country. And also the Civil Rights Act, he passed. Yeah, he signed them, but like even the Civil Rights Act, that shit ain't perfect, right? Like it is not. When you talk about the 13th Amendment, everybody talks. We know, like the moment that you go to jail or that you become a felon, now you go from equal rights to a slave once again. And then they proceeded to put a bunch of Black people in jail. So like. And he could have vetoed that and said, "Nah, we can't allow that." But I mean, LBJ was known as a connoisseur of the N-word. That is a direct quote. He was known as a connoisseur. He would just throw that shit around the White House, bro. Everybody knows that LBJ was racist, but like I said, man, DL is out here using like 2001 fucking talking points. They didn't even give him the iOS update before he came on his interview.
And the war on drugs. It had disastrous consequences for Black people. When Donald Trump won, it had disastrous consequences for Black people. If you look at who suffered the most under those policies, if you look at his COVID reaction, who died the most? So this, for me, is not a whimsical conversation. For me, it's not a conversation about what is uncomfortable.
Hold on, did we die the most during? I don't think that we had the highest death rate during COVID. I think we had. I mean, there was a death rate that was high from COVID, but it won't from actual COVID. It's from that other stuff, from the science juice. Was affecting our, yeah, I don't know if that was, you know, I mean,
look,
go ahead.
Either way, you know, when people, I don't even want to get into the pandemic stuff, to be honest with you, because you got to be very careful. But I mean,
that's true.
Stuff that a lot of right wingers were saying when Biden was pushing the jab, it's the same thing that Biden and the Democrats were saying when Trump was pushing the jab before he left office. So they're both the same. They're both complicit in, you know, the dropping the ball on the pandemic response. So that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Both sides,
and the pharmaceutical takeover,
complicit, and the deaths that happen to people.
Hey, I'm gonna say like Whitney Webb said earlier today. She called that man Donald Trump Poppy Warp Speed. I almost lost my shit, bro. I said I was drinking coffee and milk, but you know, Whitney Webb been in Latin America so long, she talking about Poppy Warp Speed. I was drinking coffee and milk, but by the time I read the tweet, it turned to cafe con leche. That's why I know she did not just call this man Poppy Warp Speed. I know she did not just call this man Poppy Warp.
It is what is necessary. Look at Project 2025 and tell me for sure. I watched the mass media and no one has interviewed anybody seriously with the fervor about Biden's age that they do about Project 2025. No one. No one. And who?
What did he say? Did you understand what he said? I heard something about 2025 and age in an interview. He having some trouble his damn self. Boy, he might need to see a Parkinson.
The fervor about Biden's age that they do about Project 2025 and tell me for sure. I watched the mass media and no one. Oh,
that's what it is. He's not finishing his sentences or his thoughts. He says a thought and he moves on too fast. So I don't. That's what I'm at. I'm like, why am I having so much trouble tracking him?
Interviewed anybody seriously with the fervor about Biden's age that they do about Project 2025. No one. No one. And who does it affect?
Jaybe, do you think there's a reason for that? First of all, nobody's talking about his age, so I don't know why. And it's also funny because everybody keeps quote unquote focusing on about his age, which is not actually what's happening. People focus on
trying to get Bernie Sanders into office. He wants to talk about, it's about his age. It was never about his age. It's about his.
Yeah, the Parkinson's. Yeah, literally the dementia and the Parkinson's. But it's funny that nobody's talking about Trump's age because they're damn near the same age. And everybody keeps forgetting that. Why is that? If the age is the issue, why don't y'all bring that up about Trump? Oh, because it actually doesn't fit your narrative. Because the problems with Trump that we talk about have nothing to do with his ability to communicate or articulate or get the job done because of the capacity or lack thereof of his brain. So there's that. But there's a reason that the Democrats don't talk in depth about Project 2025. JB? Do they talk in depth about any of hell? Do they talk in depth about any of Biden's policies?
I mean, if we're going to talk about it, I mean, of course, part of Project 2025 is that they want to get rid of They want to cut things like Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. But what did Joe Biden want to do back in the 90s?
Yeah.
I wonder.
Exactly. It's either you're gonna find out Biden supported that and hasn't done anything to move anybody or their opinion about him in those policies, or you'll find out, oh shit, hold up, so these are just policies that Republicans have already been wanting. So you're just saying Project 2025 because the Republican agenda isn't scary enough anymore, it isn't working. Because Trump and MAGA and Russia isn't working anymore, so you just had to come up with another buzzword. Maybe that's why nobody's doing in-depth interviews about Project 2025. Because they know if you do an in-depth interview, then you're just going to be like, oh, okay, so they're Republicans running on Republican policies. You didn't have to do an interview with the Democrat who read the book to hear what Trump is saying on stage. Or like, so it's the same thing. So so what I'm saying is, are you going to offer me something different? Like, are you going to offer me something substantive? Because otherwise, shut the fuck up. that's basically because that's where I'm at with it. Like, if you're not going to offer anything substantively different, because Trump isn't going to get. I don't give it. So that's the other part about Project 2025. Once you read it, you just realize, oh, this is just libertarian neocon wet dreams that they will never get done. Because now you got to explain why you lost so many damn jobs under your administration, and those people are voters and their families are voters. And it's going to be everybody with a story about how this Republican got rid of this institution and got rid of that institution and lost jobs, and that hurts the economy. And DC itself would cease to fucking function correctly in a lot of ways. You forget about how many people the Department of Education not only employs in DC, but around the country. Social Security, how much they employ not only in DC, but around the country, right? It'll get to the point where you're like, okay, yeah, I know we said we're going to do this, but we're not really going to do this, right? Because y'all see these numbers, what it's going to look like. And they think about things in quarters. They don't think about things long term. They claim that that's what they want. They claim that they think about things in the grand scheme. But our country is ran like a corporation. They only make decisions in quarterly statements. That's it. So it wouldn't happen, is what I'm telling you. Or else it would have. And the things that have happened, the biggest problems from 2025 is shit that is already problematic that the Democrats are not doing anything to fix.
If they disband or
go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing with you.
Absolve the Department of Education, who does it affect primarily? Environmental rollbacks, who does it affect primarily? All the things that are geared, if they DEI or if they Black history, who does it affect? Because the truth of the matter is in.
Now, DEI don't talk about Black. See, this 2025 doesn't talk about Black history. It does talk about critical race theory, but that's another conversation because the way that critical race theory is being taught versus what critical race theory is two different issues.
Yeah, I mean, critical race theory is a course in law school.
Yeah, it actually is. Yeah, and all critical race theory does. The real critical race theory is just acknowledge Black history.
Yeah.
So.
Really, if we're talking, we're supposed to be focused on American history. Critical race theory is American history. So therefore, why not teach it? I mean, the thing is, it's like, if we're going to, what really blows people's minds is, we should have an age appropriate version of that throughout all of school. But people look at me like I'm crazy for saying that. I'm like, nah.
So here's the thing about critical race theory, so it's important that you pointed out that it's taught in law schools because critical race theory, because people always, it's kind of like, I guess, like the Democratic Socialists of America versus actual socialists. Or Black Lives Matter, the 501c4 organization that robbed a bunch of fucking people and got rich and wealthy, versus Black Lives Matter, who are on the ground fighting for the cause, fighting for these policies and fighting for reforms. There is a difference between the two. And that difference has to be acknowledged. When it comes to critical race theory is actually just teaching all of the legal ins and outs of how Black people have been affected by the system. It isn't this idea. It isn't like, oh man, this is how people feel about Black people or how you should feel as a white person when dealing with Black people or anything like that. It's nothing to do with any of that. It is actually literally the law. There's no conjecture to be discussed. There's no hyperbole or lack thereof. There's no emphasis on one thing. No, it is this is what happened. These are the results, and these are the numbers. This is what happened. This is the results, and this is the numbers. And here is the policy or the law or the legal theory that led to it. That is what CRT is.
Yeah.
Liberals do what they do to it, but like it's important to distinguish the two. And people don't really want to have that conversation because it's not convenient. You know, you can't put that in a 1 minute clip. But just want to clear that up. Go ahead.
And I'll say this too. I mean, if you don't like that it's taught in college class, CRT is being taught in college class because you feel like, you know, you don't want because you're white and you don't want your kids to feel bad. That sounds like a you problem, first of all.
Right.
And second of all, I mean, if your child's not in law school, shut the fuck up. You know, in law school. And even if your child's in law school, they are an adult and they can make that decision themselves to learn about that's history.
Yeah. I mean, it would be wise because it could be used in the case against them if they are in law school. It would be wise to learn the theory because you're going to run into it.
Yeah.
It is.
And then on top of it, it's important to learn what actually happened to us so that we don't, I mean, those who do not learn history are doomed to repeat it. So we're trying not to go back to chattel slavery. But at the same time, it's like if you don't want people to learn about chattel slavery and all the horrors that was actually committed during it, then what are you trying to get us back to?
Mm-hmm.
So my thing is, it's like, of course, you know, I mean, you know, people, and this is one of the reasons why this is what the Democrats do with Project 2025 is what the Republicans do with critical race theory and talking about trans people. Is that they use that to fearmonger to keep people donating to the RNC.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're doing it.
RNC,
no different.
whichever. Mm-hmm. What was I say about critical race theory? Oh, the goal, in my opinion, should be is the same thing about DEI or affirmative action. If people would just shut the fuck up and just teach the truth, right? Because you got people complaining when the truth is taught. That's the issue. I don't want a Black History Month. I find it problematic that we need a Black History Month because there has been so much whitewashing of Black history that we now have to have a whole month to focus on it just to remind you, hey, we did some things too.
Yeah.
We were kind of important too, man. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like in Brazil, they have like Black culture, but they have like a bunch of different days for different cultures within Brazil. Like, and there is like a Black History Day, but you don't like get the day off or something like that. And it's like a day, and it's because of slavery. It's like an acknowledgement of the descendants of the slaves here. So that makes sense. But like, there is not an entire month dedicated to learning the Black history of Brazil because it is so completely and totally intertwined and woven in their education system and their culture that they don't have to separate a day or a month, excuse me, because it's part of it. You can't tell the story of Brazil without talking about Black history. But the difference is they didn't make policies that literally lie. I mean, literally lie. So now you end up with the overcorrection, right? Now you got to give everybody a whole month. Now we got to have DEI and affirmative action, which Black people don't even fucking benefit from. It's mostly the white people, or white women rather. And like, now you got to overcorrect. And then there's a criticism of the overcorrection without acknowledging the reason we even got to that point. Like, why do we even have to correct it? Oh, like, because people that they'll complain about critical race theory or they'll complain about Black History Month, but they won't talk about the fact that, like, why does all of this stuff get ignored? Why do we not mention this in our history books? Because if we did, we wouldn't have, like, why is the only part of the history books that mention MLK and Malcolm X, they uplift MLK, only talk about the, like, you know, turn other cheek without acknowledging the revolutionary turn he took. And also they talk about Malcolm X as if he's a bad guy and was extremely violent, and he actually didn't become a little bit more judicious and peaceful in his approach. There was nuance to both of them that they don't acknowledge. And what pissed me off more than anything, I never even learned about Fred Hampton in high school. I didn't learn about Fred Hampton until fucking college. We learned about the Black Panthers and didn't learn about Fred Hampton.
Yeah. Even
though he's one of the co-founders. Like, stuff like why do we even have, because then you find out the truth about your government, you find the truth about, you know, who got advantages, or rather who was disadvantaged through policy. And then people begin to feel insecure because they begin to find out, damn, So if I fail, if I'm not as successful as I would like to be, as my peers are, it's my fault. I didn't have policies that were actually created to fuck me over because of how I was born.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but that is the case with Black people. That is the case with redlining, right? That is the case with the Fair Housing Act and segregation. I mean, the last case of redlining, if I'm not mistaken, was prosecuted in 2014, guys. That is a Jim Crow law. That is a Jim Crow law. So they started to realize, damn, there are people who actually managed to succeed despite having the system work against them. So if I fail and I don't have an excuse, we're not even going to visit that. It's their fault. They're just playing victim all the time. They get benefits. They get handouts. They don't even want to visit the possibility that their failure or lack of success, rather, is because of them and them alone. And they don't want to deal with the possibility that their success came at the suppression of another person's ability to become successful. They don't want to admit that somebody might have got passed up on that job because of how they look, because of what religion they practice, because of what their last name is. My family is really big on names, and I've always felt like one of the reasons that I've gotten a lot of calls back for interviews when I was young, and I didn't realize how big of a deal that was. But it's because my first name is actually Greek, and my last name is of German origin. But there's a lot of white houses. The Black houses all live in the Midwest, but there's a lot of white houses in the South. So when they will call me for interviews, they were always surprised. Oh, you're Niko? I'm like, yeah. I don't know why that's a big deal, because they weren't expecting me to be Black. Now, obviously, I get the job and all that good stuff because I know what I'm talking about, and I know I know how to interview. But my point is, my friends, a lot of the times, what I like to affectionately refer to as my family reunion Black friends. Okay, the ones that have been in the South for a long time. Depending on what their first name is, they weren't getting callbacks like that. They weren't, when they apply to places, they weren't getting the offers that I was getting or that my brother were getting. My brother's name is Quentin, which is a pretty standard name from England. It's actually an English name. It literally just means Queenstown. So we have very unique names for Southern Black. We're not Southern Black people, but we lived in the South. And that affects your ability to get a callback, especially back in the day. There are people who got a job because this person never got the opportunity, not because you were more qualified, but because this person never got the opportunity. And people don't want to wrestle with that. I've already wrestled. As a man, I've gotten jobs and gotten pay that a woman should have maybe gotten or deserved.
Yeah,
I've already wrestled with that because I had that happen. I found out in real time that a woman that was working full time at Best Buy when I was there, had been there for a long time, was getting paid less than I was, and I was still in high school working part-time, and I had only been there for a year.
Yeah.
So I already wrestled with that. But there are people who they don't want to have that conversation with themselves, because then it can expose some insecurities, and we know God, they don't want to deal with your own insecurities, right? Let's get to the rest of this. I'm gonna let you get up out of here.
In 2020, it was the Black and brown people that fired Donald Trump. More white people voted for him in 2020 than voted for him in 2016. Black and brown people fired him. And as a result of this, we have these draconian measures in Project 2025, and more rather than...
That's actually just not true, guys. I'm sorry, but he increased his voter demographic across all demographics except for white men. I'm just keeping it a band, guys. If you ain't got to lie about your enemy now. If you got to lie about your enemy, it means you gonna lie about yourself. It's just for yourself. Okay. Just tell the truth. You could have made the argument better, right? More people, like the black and brown people, chose Joe Biden. Why you have to say they fired Donald Trump? You could have said, what I'm saying? It's the way you deliver the message. But if you got to lie about your enemy, it said a little bit more about you than your enemy.
Democrats focusing on that. They're focusing on the age of a man. By the time this is over, one thing is for certain. Joe Biden will be older, and Project 2025 will still be the platform that is running behind all of this.
This has been one of the big criticisms that people have not gone after what are the obvious Achilles heels of one's opponent. And you mentioned that you also interviewed Vice President Harris, I believe, about a month ago as well. And I do want to get your take, given, probably 2025 has more than a few dog whistles, shall we say? And there's also overt statements
Not
that are
dog
now being
whistles.
made. I said more than overt dog whistles. I'm saying in terms of thinking about it. And there are also moments when people.
Hey, Jaybe, I just wanted to acknowledge, you see how they got this black woman to interview D.L. Hughley, and then they focus on 2025, Kamala Harris. She's a DEI hire, which, by the way, I mean, I'm actually in the camp that she is, but we'll talk about that later. But you see this, bro, this was that production meeting was wild. They're like, hey, so we're gonna get this black journalist to interview D.L. Hughley and put up a conversation about Trump and make it about 2025 and talk about how Kamala Harris is a DEI hire. Dog. It's so bad.
People are using race and having those discussions to criticize the vice president of the United States. And I want to get your take on something that she's recently been facing, for quite some time, but especially now that she's being named as possibly someone to top a ticket. Listen to what the former Trump official, Sebastian Gorka, had the nerve to say about her.
She's a DEI hire, right? She's a woman. She's colored, therefore she's got to be good. Yeah. And at least her brain doesn't literally freeze in mid-sentence.
Now, I don't know if you can see who's on that screen, but one of them on the right, I love Whitaker, who is the former acting attorney general of the United States with that smile on his face. What do you make of these attacks?
Yeah, so fuck Kamala. No, I really want to know what you got to say because I don't really care about what he has to say about it. I already know what he's going to say. I want to know what your opinion is about that, because I personally believe that this is one of those very few cases where you can actually call her a DI hire, and it probably would be true. Maybe. Like Candace and Kamala might be the only two situations that I can think of popular black women that are actually DI hires.
But that could be said as true. But that guy that called her a DEI hire, he's a dumb idiot too. Because if I would have went after her, I would have actually went after her record for what she did. But he doesn't want to go after her record because he actually would agree with the things that she did. So see, this is why I look at the people who are on the right as also idiots. Not the people on the right, but these conservative pundits and these conservative politicians, they're idiots just like the Democrats, because they're going, oh, well, she's a DEI hire. That's how they are. When
never mention the record. And never mention the record.
You could have went to what Tulsi Gabbard said about her back in 2020 and then resaid that. And then you said, look, this is what Kamala Harris did. You know, she's not for black people either. And then that would have made a way better argument. But these Republicans and these people in the GOP are just as dumb as the Democrats, because then they'll say these things and then Democrat will be like, oh my God, she called her a DEI hire. Can you believe that? And it's just like, we don't like Kamala no ways.
But my thing is, so I still fall in the camp that she's a DEI hire, but it's because of everything you just said. Because I remember I talk about what happened, how she got exposed by Tulsi in that 2020 debate, and the subsequent, like, she tanked in the polling amongst black people. And yet and still Joe Biden decided he would focus on electing a black woman or selecting a black woman as VP instead of selecting the right record for VP, right? And then he went to Kamala anyway, despite the fact that she didn't get a mandate from us. Right? She didn't get a mandate from us. She has not shown to be qualified in any way. Because, like, when you say I want to select a black woman, what does that generally insinuate? That you're selecting a black woman because of her record with black people, because she has a record of helping or assisting black people. That record is non-existent as a senator, nor as an AG, nor as a DA. So why was she selected? Because of what you said. Only because you wanted to fill a quota. And a quota to get your votes.
Yeah. I mean,
so that's why I said go ahead.
Ben Carson was a DEI hire. We're going to talk about it.
Yeah. Well, no, what do you mean? Not as a neurosurgeon.
No, he was a DEI
okay.
hire.
I was say not as a neurosurgeon because he damn sure went.
Where's his housing? Where is his housing qualifications?
Yeah.
For, when he was trained as a neurosurgeon.
Yeah, no, that's bad.
I don't know. Oh, I own the house. What?
Yeah, he won't qualify. Yeah.
Like, the Democrats and Republicans both choose DEI. If we're going to talk about DEI hires, they both do it.
Exactly. Exactly. And I guarantee that same pundit wouldn't have a damn word to say about Charlie Kirk explicitly hiring Candace Owens as a DEI hire, because remember that controversy that he went through where him and his like little group chat with his second in command, we just got caught tossing around the N-word all over the damn place, and that shit got posted on the internet. And right after that is whenever Candace got hired, because they had to prove that we're not actually racist. We hired Candace Owens, so we're not racist. It's like really.
And I want to make sure I say this abundantly clear. I'm not actually against DEI.
Mm-hmm.
I think DEI has been a euphemism for token hire.
Yeah,
that's what people are using.
That's generally what they do. Yeah.
I'm actually for diversity, equity, inclusion. In fact, we shouldn't even need it in this country, because we should actually start going according to the merits of people, regardless of their race. But because of the systemic racism that we actually have to have DEI. So my thing is, I'm not actually against it. I am against tokenism. And Kamala Harris was a token, just like people like Ben Carson was a token, right? All these people are tokens. And the thing is that both parties are using tokens in order to make it seem like that they're actually for you. And that's the problem. Like, for instance, I'm gonna be real with you. Donald Trump doing what he did for Lil Wayne, that was token shit.
Yeah, it definitely was. He knew what he was doing. It didn't really help him that much in the election, but I mean, he did it for he partied he partied in Kodak too.
Yeah.
He fucked it up because he got charged so much right after. But that's Kodak, That's Kodak. But yeah, that's the problem that is the problem with any of these conversations, is like they get so warped that now what it actually is gets confused with whatever Twitter says it is now. It's now because people, like, I remember whenever Charlie Kirk made this absurd statement about, like, now I'm gonna have to question if I see a black woman as a pilot, because I'm gonna assume that she's there because of DEI. And I was like, you mean the same pilots that all have to get the exact same qualifications before they can be pilots? Like, that's like that was possibly the worst example you could have used. But it was the fact that he said it. I'm like, exactly. So in other words, you're more upset that you don't have the advantage anymore. You're not upset that somebody unqualified might get the job, or somebody more qualified might not get the job. You're upset because you don't get the advantage anymore. Whenever because now we have to go out of our way to consider the race, because when qualifications were equal or one person was more qualified, the person who was not white was getting passed up.
Yeah.
That's what you're upset. Because Charlie Kirk's whole history is being upset because he thinks that he should have gotten in the Ivy League, but he believes a minority took his spot. That is literally how he got famous. That's why he focused all his energy. Yeah, bro, that's why he focused all his energy at the beginning of TPUSA on going to different colleges and bitching. The same colleges he wanted to get into that he got denied, he went to go bitch, saying they're teaching Marxism, they're teaching because he was upset he got rejected and he was blaming minorities for it. Yeah, that's how Charlie Kirk. I mean,
see, Charlie Kirk is oh my God, that the foolery that's going on here. Because Charlie Kirk, if you're mad that you didn't get into an Ivy League school, you need to blame the legacy admissions rather than kids who are of color who got in because they kicked ass on the SATs, right? And the thing is, how many kids that got higher? How many kids who are black and brown have very low SAT scores, but they got in because they're black? How many?
That never, bro. Especially like black women, for example. Black women actually overperform. Like they are generally considered they perform the highest on SATs. Obviously, Asians are like, I think the highest of the high, but black women are like, as far as the average of both SAT scores and grades, they overachieve in high school, and then they also overachieve once they get to the Ivy League schools. It's just like a consistent theme. So it's when he said that, and he's like blaming all these other minorities. I'm like, if anybody got a claim, it might be Asians, because Asians' pool of competition is crazy, right? I ain't gonna cap. they competing with the world of Asians who have ridiculously high standards when it comes to standardized institutions and like getting the grades and passing the test. Like it becomes an issue of, I mean, it's already an issue of money, but in Korea, for example, like they start paying for SAT tutors and just school tutors at an extremely young age. They pay their teachers their value. I'm gonna put it like that. You can become a millionaire as a tutor in Korea. So South Korea, I mean. So, but my point is that it always gets purposely distorted so that we have to now have a conversation about whether or not what we have to have a conversation about what DEI actually is, or have this conversation about a pilot, like, which is like the dumbest conversation to have, because you have to have a specific qualifications to be a pilot, right? But that's on purpose. Nobody ever really wants to have the real conversation, which is like you said, and like I said, it's how do we even get here? And why aren't you upset about that?
Yeah.
Why aren't you upset about that? Like that we even have to have this conversation.
Yeah.
So I want to show you really quick before you go this funny ass clip. And it lighthearted. Yeah, you know David Pakman, man. I don't know if do you know David Pakman? David don't really like me that much.
Niko.
Bro, you know, David be saying shit and it'd be so funny because it's like watching satire. You would think it's like back in the day, Stephen Colbert or Jon Stewart, because he says it so seriously. Mm-hmm. And what comes out of his mouth, you're like waiting for him to like chuckle a little bit, but he just keeps going. Oh. Yeah. But this shit is gonna have you look.
Biden has Parkinson's, so what? It makes no difference to me. It would do nothing to dissuade me from voting for him. The progression of Parkinson's disease and these related Parkinsonian disorders, they really vary, but they are typically slow to progress. In the early stages, the first 3 years, you're talking about stiffness and sometimes mild tremors. Minimal impact on daily activities. Almost everyone in the first 3 years can perform whatever tasks they were previously performing. You then get into the middle years, 3 to 7 years, where symptoms get worse. It can take 15 years to get what would be called late stage Parkinson's. So would it be a big story if the White House were hiding that Joe Biden has Parkinson's? It would. It would. Does it have any bearing on how I would vote in November? Absolutely none.
Bro,
why are they focused on Parkinson's when nobody ever said anything about him possibly having dementia?
Oh no, actually, no. An expert came out and actually confirmed that that's exactly what he has. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. No, that's why he had to. It's now being forced to be addressed because there was experts that went to the White House multiple times, like Parkinson specific experts, and then this expert, who is a lifelong Democrat, came out and confirmed that.
You noticed anything that gives you a red flag as a doctor?
Oh, yeah. I see him 20 times a day in clinic. I mean, it's ironic because he has just such classic features of neurodegeneration. I mean, word finding difficulties, and that's not, I couldn't find the word. That's from degeneration of the word retrieval area.
He's also overcome stuttering, though. Could that be part of that, too?
No, this is not a palatal issue or a speech discrepancy, which is very different from a lemino dysfunction, actual word retrieval, where you pick a similar question or talk around the issue, plus the rigidity, monotone voice.
Wait, go back to that, the rigidity. What do you mean?
Rigidity, loss of arm swing, standing up lordotically. You notice when he turns, it's kind of end block turning. It's not a quick turn. So that's one of the hallmarks of Parkinson's is rigidity and bradykinesia, slow movement. And he has that hallmark, especially with the low voice that said was a cold hypophonia. A small monotone voice like this over time is a hallmark of Parkinsonism. I could have diagnosed him from across the mall.
Here are some of the symptoms from Parkinson's. We just had him up there on the screen. If we can put him back. What about the movement? Some people have pointed out the way he walks. Sometimes it's not very fast, small steps. Is that something that is common in people who are battling a disease like Parkinson's?
Yeah, it's a hallmark. Shuffling gait, we call that, so little steps. Loss of arm swing from the rigidity. When we walk, we have a nice cadence. You notice he doesn't really swing his arms. And end block turning, meaning he kind of pivots around his foot. If you said, hey, President Biden, he wouldn't go like this.
But I also know, and tell me if I'm wrong here, it's very hard to diagnose Parkinson's, isn't it? It's not simple. I mean, I've heard that it can be.
One of the easier movement disorders to diagnose, actually.
Right,
but it's so clinical. There's very little.
Actually, no, it's the opposite. He literally just said he could diagnose Biden from across the mall. So
others, and I'm a Democrat. I always say about this.
Right.
It's just like this guy is not a hard case.
But I've had relatives who have gone through neurological issues, and I've heard that sometimes Parkinson's is not very easy to nail. You have to
this man's. He said, I got a relative. Motherfucker, this is an expert in Parkinson's. He's like, I got relatives though, man. I got relatives. But yeah, bro, he got Parkinson's. It's not like people are, this is not conjecture. Like they're really, that's what it is.
Yeah, but I mean, even still, like I just, quick Google search is this website called Alzheimer's.org. Says at first it mainly causes problems with development. It says, however, after a few years, some people also start to have problems with thinking, memory, and perception. These symptoms are mild at first for many people. They do not get much worse. However, around a third of people with Parkinson's usually develop dementia. Therefore, that's why I asked about the dementia thing. Is that, Joe Biden, does he also have dementia? Because the thing is like, in my view, from what it looks like, it's not just Parkinson's. I think it's Parkinson's may be one of the only problems. The issue is they're trying to say, okay. It might be Parkinson's, but that doesn't matter. But it's like once you get dementia in there too, then it's like, oh, this guy is cooked.
Yeah, and if anything, the dementia was more obvious in the Parkinson's.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's only recently that he started developing a lot of the symptoms, or he started demonstrating publicly, at least, a lot of the symptoms of Parkinson's consistently. Not before, even at the beginning of the of his administration, it looked like it was talking like he had dementia, right? Forgetting things mid-sentence, losing track of what he was talking, losing track of where he's going, losing track of who he's talking to, can't remember. Like literally, he just, bro, did you see the NATO thing? He was giving his speech, and he was like, "Oh, I forgot I was talking to your wife."
Oh yeah.
I said, what the fuck? I forgot I was talking to your wife. Whoa, wait a minute. I'm sure somebody in that crowd was like, bitch, whose wife was you talking to? Like, he was having a flashback, Nasty Joe. Let me get to these super chats so we can get up out of here. Eric Huzo, thank you very much for the super chat. Pac-Man's eyes are so close together that he must have bad depth perception. Oh shit. That's wild. F. Joe Biden and F. Trump writing free Palestine. Hey, I hear you. I bet these fools get so desperate that they have Elon chip Joe's brain. You know what? You joking about that. But I wouldn't rule it out. You can't. This is the hardest year of bingo, of political bingo that we have ever played, guys. We are in uncharted territory. Like I couldn't have, like I said, I take personal pleasure in watching the Democrats suffer like this. I couldn't have planned it out any better after everything that they've pulled. Like the fact that he would break down like this at this time after they've already done the cheating, after they've already ostracized other candidates, like that they're having a civil war within their party, and the people who fucked us over have to pledge loyalty to Parkinson's candidate, the genocide Joe, right? That this party, like people, y'all, they're not gonna win. I think that we can pretty much agree. Like you're not gonna win. But not only are you not gonna win, but your fundraising is going to suffer now. Y'all about to lose seats. And go ahead.
What did Justin Timberlake say? What goes around comes around, comes around, comes around.
Back around, what goes around comes around, baby. I told everybody been watching me. I was like, y'all know it's gonna take about 8 years. So don't worry about it. The universe is gonna come back. It's gonna get its get back. It's gonna take about 8 years. I've been saying this forever. I said, because you're gonna have to have maybe it was just we didn't have enough. Then they're gonna be like, oh no, we actually did get cheated. But man, they can't be that bad. I'm like, nah, they're gonna do it again. Then once they get past that, they're gonna be like, oh shit, no, we gotta burn this down. Then you're gonna start seeing, because now people don't believe in the system. We had to get past that part where people believed in the system.
Yeah.
And the pandemic helped with because people were forced to be at home and they were kind of confused as to why they had to negotiate for their money that they gave the fucking government for their safety net. They had to watch that play out in real time. They watched Bernie get cheated, watched Souza get cheated, watched Marianne Williamson call out the party at the time, watch Andrew Yang the list goes on. And then even to they watched Joe Biden come in at the last minute when everybody's like, well, why the hell is he even here? When did he? Nobody called him. But yeah, they called him. They called him to because of this Ukraine situation to beat Bernie, like that representative said. What did they say? He said, it was yesterday during the interview. He said, people keep forgetting. They didn't call Joe Biden in to beat because he was the only one to beat Trump. They called Joe Biden in because he was the only one who could beat Bernie. That's what he said. The Democratic representative said this. So we are now here.
Well, remember what they did back in January of 2019, where you had people like Hillary Clinton, Pete Buttigieg, all the big wigs of the Democratic Party actually met in a meeting in New York to stop Bernie Sanders.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, of course, that was the goal, because ultimately they did not want somebody who was actually going to attack them from the left. Even if he's slightly to the left of them, they still saw that as a danger.
I feel like, and so here's what I feel like too. Bernie wasn't as big of a threat as his movement was. That was the problem.
True.
That was always the problem. Bernie was never, because they know but they've been able to keep Bernie in line for the most part for years. They didn't really perceive him as a threat. And they also knew, you can say what you want to, but we got Congress. Like if you win and when the Democrats win their seats, we're going to pass what we want to, and you're going to sign what we tell you to. But it's way different if he wins and he gets the mandate that he would have gotten. Because now we on your neck. Every single piece of legislation that he puts out, if he needs the support, we trying to get universal health care passed. We need y'all to go up to DC. Bet we already got the plane tickets, dog. I got the points saved up. That's what would have happened.
Parties.
Yeah. And Bernie all about his legacy, right? So there isn't, as much as I say also, I get scared thinking about the idea that Bernie would have been president because he has a semblance of power right now and he hasn't done shit with it except for give Democrats everything they want. But because Bernie is so concerned about his legacy, there's the other possibility that he goes full balls to the wall because of the mandate that he would have. And he might not give us everything that we want, but he would capitulate to whatever we want. Because we've already have an established movement, and you wouldn't be able to tell us shit because we won. Now we going crazy now. We going, because look at what Trump supporters did. I feel like they didn't even go hard enough on Trump, but they got they got him to move on certain issues because you couldn't tell them shit once he won. Now, if Bernie would have won, it would have been even crazier, in my opinion, because the organization was already there. The independent media behind him was already there. The experience was already there. I feel like Trump brought a lot of new people. Bernie brought in a lot of new people too, but he also had a lot of experienced progressives who were willing to work with him. It would have forced some of these people who were teetering on centrism. They would have been forced into our camp. And I don't really care if you're forced into our camp as long as you're doing the right thing. I'm a pragmatist, right? So that's what they were more worried about, in my opinion. It wasn't Bernie necessarily. It was but they do know that Bernie, if he gets pushed hard enough, he will do what the hell people tell him to do because he's concerned about his legacy.
I'm going to add to your point because, number one, the squad would have been bigger, number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, the squad wouldn't have been as crappy as they have been because they would have been like, well, we want to push, President Sanders' agenda. And that would have been more of a progressive agenda. And then because they would be afraid that he would primary them from the left. And that would actually have emboldened them to go against Nancy Pelosi and then call for a flow vote for Medicare for all, or for at the time a $15 an hour minimum wage. It would have been all this different stuff, and it's like, but at the same time, would Bernie have capitulated to, the Democratic Party?
Or the military industrial complex. That's what I get worried about, is the military industrial complex. Because as long as you're a Zionist, there's zero, in my opinion, there's zero chance that you will not capitulate to the military industrial complex, because the majority of the wars that we fight are on behalf of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're not willing to tell Israel no, and unfortunately Bernie has not been willing to tell Israel no, The domestic policies are cool, but I'm not the type of person that like, oh yeah, I'm gonna cheer you on because I got universal health care. While the same tax dollars that are paying for me to stay alive are paying for somebody else to die. Like I'm not. I can't.
Agreed.
You know what I'm saying? Like I can't sit with that. I wouldn't be able to. And that's what bothers me about Bernie. And that's one of the things that turned me off in 2020 as I delved more into his record on foreign policy. Like the fact that at first he said that he was against both Iraq and Afghanistan from the beginning, but that's not true. Actually, only Barbara Lee, surprisingly enough, was the only one who was against the war in Afghanistan at the beginning. Bernie was pushing that, even though he shouldn't have. He caught up to the war in Iraq. He wasn't always against it, but even still, he was passing legislation that sent more money to the war in Iraq. I think Boeing, I can't remember if it's Boeing or Lockheed Martin, builds military equipment and vehicles in Vermont. So even though he doesn't take their money, he doesn't necessarily vote against their wars and their funding, right? So because it creates jobs in Vermont. So there was a lot of things, the bombing of Kosovo, and that viral video that came out with him basically cussing out people who were protesting him on that. His in Libya, him voting, he was trying to call out Hillary on Libya, and he forgot. He fucking signed the letter to overthrow Gaddafi. He forgot, which is crazy. I'm like, bro, how you forget some shit like that? You just literally be out here doing what the Democrats tell you to do? Because that's what it sounds like. If you just sign a letter to overthrow a government and it was done in the fashion that it was done, and you just forgot, that literally means you just got somebody just, hey man, go ahead, stamp my signature there, like whatever. Because that's what he always does, is capitulate to the military-industrial complex, regardless of who's in power. That's what scares me. That's what has always scared me about Bernie since I started to learn more about his foreign policy record. And I don't know what movements can, at least in the U.S., movements can affect domestic policy a lot, especially because we can go through the judicial process and get precedent set in that way. But movements have had, unfortunately, little to no effect on how we govern when it comes to foreign policy. That's just the truth of it, because we see what's going on in Palestine right now. Yeah, Biden might lose because of it, but we're gonna get Trump. So I don't know how much he ain't gonna make it much better. And even if Trump lost because of it, we're gonna get another Democrat who's gonna pay for it, who's still gonna pay Netanyahu. And out of both of those or any of those, we're not gonna get anybody that holds him accountable, which would stop this from continuing or happening again in the future, right? The projects that we have in Africa, the terrorism that we fund overseas, like that shit continues, regardless of who's in power, and unfortunately, regardless of how long did Afghanistan go on?
About 20 years.
Iraq, we're still in Iraq. We were supposed to leave, but we're still there.
Yeah. You
know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't know how to do complex algebra when we got into Afghanistan and Iraq. Okay. Like 35, I got 2 kids now. And we saw the movements. There was energy behind those movements.
Yep.
And so the movements to affect domestic policy, a little bit more efficacious in ways that unfortunately can't move leaders when it comes to foreign policy. And that shit's disheartening, honestly. And it pisses me off. But it's one of the reasons why, like, y'all gotta stop fucking believing this fake system, man. You gotta become revolutionaries, dog. This system is not going. You can't save yourselves or save the world or save the country through voting. At least not alone. It's like the last thing on the list. Mutual aid, still organizing and talking about foreign policy, educating yourself, being unwilling to participate in the companies that perpetuate the violence overseas. A shout out to my god sister who turned down a 6-figure Lockheed Martin job for engineering. And she was like, fuck that, I'm not gonna be part of that. So shout out to my god sister. Like there are other ways, but voting is not gonna fix US foreign policy. And a lot of reasons you ain't got a lot of the shit that we need in the US is because of how much money we spend. The same money they tell you we ain't got, we giving Lockheed Martin and Boeing and Israel and fucking Zelensky, bro. Goddamn. Oh man. Oh, bro, I can't believe he showed up to DC and left with 80 billion like that. That was wild. So, Jaybe, tell everybody where they can find you at, man.
All right, you guys can find me at Jaybe Font on basically all the socials. You can find me the Jaybe Font Show on Facebook. But You guys can find me at Jaybe Font. Just type in Jaybe Font on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble. Also, if you guys would like to, you guys can follow me on Revolutionary Blackout Network. You guys can just type in Rev Black Network at Twitter. You guys can type in Revolutionary Blackout Network on YouTube, and we are there on Rockfin and Rumble as well. I'm also on Twitch too. So if you guys would like to, you can find me there on all the socials, and I will be live again Tuesday. So you guys can look forward to that. And also I do readings on my channel as well.
You guys stream tonight with Sabby, right?
Yeah, so on RBN, or Revolutionary Blackout Network. In fact, that's in an hour. So
yeah, and I have JB's channel, his YouTube channel, on in my description. So y'all go and follow his YouTube channel in the description below. Help him get to 5,000 YouTube subscribers. He should have been there. Y'all messing up. Yeah, because y'all know this man should have been got 5,000. But y'all know how YouTube do. You know how YouTube be doing, man. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream segment of For the People podcast. Make sure y'all like this video. Subscribe if you're new here. Share this video. But always remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace.